Chapter 370. 1 against 3. 1 against 3. Hearing the excited shouts, Lu Qing smiled and turned to look at the seats of Hudong University. He saw the tall and thin Wu Yong slowly stand up with a serious face. It's meaningless to leave a professional ninth-pin opponent for my brother-in-law. And anyone with a discerning eye can see that I still have some strength left. If I leave now, it'll seem like I'm discriminating against the weak and disrespectful to Wu Yong as a fighter. Besides, I haven't really done 1 against 3. I have to experience it. Since it's like this, I'll be a good man until the end. Lu Qing made up his mind and moved his feet slightly apart. He repositioned his stance and pretended to be waiting for the third round. He was eager to have a try. No matter how much experience he had, no matter how mature he was, he couldn't hide the fact that he was only 20 years old. His vigor and vitality had not left him yet. Isn't there a song that goes like this? It basically means that even if you're older, you're still the young man in your heart. Seeing Lu Qing's posture, the surrounding audience understood what he meant. All of a sudden, they started cheering in unison, each louder than the last. In the final round of the National University Martial Arts Competition, 1 against 3 was not a common thing. It seems that Lu Qing is really going to 1 against 3. In the live broadcast room, the host Lu Chang said with a smile. Chen Sanqing shook his head and said with a smile, "It can't be helped. In the case of the weak fighting against the strong, one wrong move will cause the whole game to collapse." When Han Peipei was shaken by Lu Cheng's newly learned Buddhist incantation of 9 words, you can imagine what will happen next. Alas, I just predicted that Yu Ji would be a live target, but I didn't expect him to lose so quickly. Yeah, I thought that with his fat body he would be able to withstand dozens of moves. But Lu Chang sighed. But he was easily defeated. Hudong University was about to get 3 kills, which was a bit embarrassing. It can't be helped. Yu Ji's fighting style is to force others to fight head-on. How can one not wet his shoes if he always walks by the river? It's too difficult for him to avoid a head-on fight with Lu Cheng's simplified physical invulnerability. It's only a matter of time before he loses. Chen Sanqing stared at Wu Yong, who was slowly walking to the arena, and said, Lu Cheng's skill of balancing the Dan and returning qi and blood is more and more perfect. It's impossible to defend. It's normal for Yu Ji to be defeated. Well, the third round is about to start. Sanqing, give us a brief review of the fight. Lu Chang controlled the time. The specific situation is similar to my analysis before the competition. Lu Chang Lu Cheng was of a professional martial artist of professional 6th pin when he fought with Peng Liyun in December last year. No. The most practical thing is that he hasn't gotten the certificate of professional 6th pin. He's not a real professional 6th pin fighter. A 20-year-old professional 8th pin fighter is just SOSO. Lu Chang made a joke with a joke on Weibo. Chen Sanqing laughed and then sighed with emotion. Let's not compare him with Peng Liyun. Lu Qing deserves to be called God's favored son. Well, he's not a candidate. Haha, the commentators are praising Lu Qing so much that I'm blushing. Humility, we have to be humility. Eternal Nightfall, Yan Xiaoling posted with an emoji of bursting with joy. I feel embarrassed for them. Wonton Seller sent a dancing emoji. I don't want to say anything. I just want to shout. 1 against 3. 1 against 3. Brahman sent a waving red flag. You girls only know how to be love-struck. Can't you be a little more technical? Unparalleled Dragon King sent a disdainful emoji. In my opinion, that fatty is really pitiful. If it were some other weak professional 6th pin fighters without supernatural abilities or simplified physical invulnerability, he might not have lost. His fighting style is restrained and his teammates are not strong enough. What else can he do? Rode to the arena, wandered over and spread his hands. Flying Steed in Space sent an emoji of laughing out loud. Fatty's tragic expression just now made me laugh to death. After seeing that Han Peipei didn't cause any damage, he probably gave up. Only Fatty. If it were someone else, they would have been killed by such a series of explosions. Red blood and white turbidity flying everywhere. Don't take it the wrong way. I'm talking about brain matter. Okamoto's fan joked. The 2 leading fighters of the opponent were defeated. There was no doubt about the victory. The atmosphere in the forum was lively and relaxed. In the seating area of Songqing University Martial Arts Club, Yenjika changed her sitting posture. She secretly glanced at her cousin to confirm his opinion on Cheng's 1 versus 3. Lin Ke was still wearing his thin jacket. His expression was calm without any ripples. He had no intention to fight. He really didn't have the energy to bully a fighter of professional ninth pin, who didn't affect the overall situation. He was waiting for Cheng to 1 versus 3. Yenjika was completely relieved. She looked at the arena happily. Li Mao, Sun Jian, and the others had taken out their phones. They pretended to be onlookers and began to record the first victory of Songqing University Martial Arts Club in the national competition after so many years. In the arena, Yuji supported himself with both hands and struggled to get up. His head was bruised and swollen with 2 bloody dragons hanging from it. He nodded to Lu Cheng and walked towards the stone steps with his fat jiggling. Although he was a little staggered, his steps were not weak. Looking at his back and the shallow human-shaped pit on the ground, Lu Cheng couldn't help but take a deep breath. He admired his opponent's ability to take hits. Walking on the road, even if he was hit by a car, he just turned over and patted the dust off. He would be fine. If it were Lu Cheng himself, he would definitely be injured if he didn't take the hit with his body. Walking slowly, Yuji looked at the road under his feet and sighed inexplicably in his heart. My martial arts career in university is really coming to an end. Wu Yong smiled bitterly and looked at him. He removed all his burdens and stepped into the arena step by step. For him, if he wanted to make a comeback in this situation, he could only hope that a meteorite would fall from the sky and kill, or injure a group of people from Songqing University Martial Arts Club. There was no other way. So he didn't think about anything else. He just wanted to experience the battle with the 6th pin fighter of Dan's stage. He stood in front of Lu Cheng, took his stance and looked at his opponent. Lu Cheng lowered his waist and stretched out his right arm, making a gesture of opening the door to welcome the guest. The referee didn't waste any time. He waved his arm and shouted, "Start!" Bam bam bam. Wu Yong's muscles and bones sounded together, like a sports car accelerating to the limit. In the whistling wind, he moved nimbly and jumped to Lu Cheng's side. He suddenly put his feet inward, twisted his waist and turned his back. Using his arm as a whip, he fiercely lashed out. Bam! Lu Cheng didn't move. He raised his hand and accurately blocked the attack. At this moment, Wu Yong's left foot kicked out quickly. The squirming of his muscles offset the signs of friction. It was silent and breathless. Fatal hidden kick. However, just as he put strength into his leg, Lu Cheng had already kicked out from the side. He accurately kicked the sole of his foot and turned the wind into nothingness. Wu Yong suppressed the fluctuation of his emotions and used his footwork. He attacked Lu Cheng from the front, the back, and the side. He kept using the double chaos hammer. But Lu Cheng didn't move. He always made a move in time and blocked his opponent's every attack. It was like a master teaching his disciple. After a round of fierce attacks, Wu Yong was about to take a break. When he was about to step back and increase the distance between them, he saw Lu Cheng swing his right arm back and close to his fist as fast as the wind. He hurriedly tried to stop, but Lu Cheng flicked his elbow and opened his 5 fingers. He caught his wrist and quickly pulled back. Wu Yong couldn't bear it. His body swayed forward. Lu Cheng bent his shoulder and elbowed him in the chest. The referee secretly yawned, raised his hand and shouted, "Lu Cheng wins the 3rd round. Songqing University Martial Arts Club wins this round." Not bad, not bad. Hearing the referee's voice, Wu Yong was relieved. He felt that his performance was normal and that he didn't lose face. Of course, it was also because Lu Cheng was kind and didn't use force concentration or supernatural killing moves. Just as he straightened his body, his eyes suddenly froze as he realized a fact. Lu Cheng hadn't moved a single step since the start of the battle. Just by standing there, he had already won. With a boom, the audience burst into enthusiastic cheers. Triple kill. Triple kill. Triple kill. After a few shouts, someone took the lead and gradually other voices sounded in the audience. From chaos to uniformity, they echoed in the surroundings. God's favored son. God's favored son. God's favored son. Lu Cheng smiled and waved his arms at the audience. Then he turned around and left the arena. When he returned to the seats of Songqing University Martial Arts Club, his eyes met Yenjika's joyful eyes. According to the rules, the one who wins the 1 versus 3 has to treat the whole team to a big meal. Kai Zhoming jumped out like a light bulb between the two. Since he was in the capital and close to his girlfriend, he was in good condition in all aspects. What rules? How come I don't know about it? Lu Cheng looked at him suspiciously. Little Ming smiled proudly. Our team committee just unanimously approved the rules. Where did the team committee come from? Lu Cheng asked, amused. It was just set up. Kai Zhongming laughed. Then I'll treat you to the capital's barbecue tonight. Lu Cheng wanted to invite everyone to celebrate his good start. Ahem. Geezer sure interrupted. Since you're not tired, tomorrow's relaxation training will be cancelled. Let's start the cooperation training. Take it easy on the supper. Next match, Songqing University versus Mingdao. Geezer sure didn't rush to teach the members who lacked the foundation of formations. Instead, he asked them to cooperate with each other in pairs. Yes, coach. Yenjika and the others answered cheerfully. After the supper, Yenjika returned to her room, washed up, and went to bed after a while of cuddling with Lu Cheng. After saying good night to each other, she browsed the martial arts section of various portals before going to bed. She secretly looked at how others praised Cheng. The pages appeared and the titles jumped into her eyes. 10 warm-up moves are nothing. Lu Cheng overturned Hudong by himself. This is the first 1 versus 3 in this competition. Lu Cheng did it with ease. Because of him, the death group won't die. Remove the candidate, the heavenly son of the age. Chapter 371. Apart from the news, there was also a craze on Weibo. Many people tagged the famous martial artist, all-knowing man in ganghood : What do you want to say? Come, let's take a look. Smirk. Waiting for your comments on Lu Cheng's performance. In this trend, all-knowing man in ganghood once again posted a long Weibo. What do I want to say? What do I want to say? In the long Weibo post in December last year, I wrote very clearly that Lu Cheng is expected to advance from a weak 6th pin to a normal 6th pin by April this year, because he has mastered more unique skills and rich combat experience. Am I not right? Was it not within my expectations? Is he now directly at the inhuman stage? At that time, the reason why I said that his status as the heavenly son of the age still needs to be observed was because his rapid improvement benefited from the benefits of the 2 awakenings of his supernatural ability. He was not like Run Li and Peng Liyun, who walk step by step on the martial path. This difference to a large extent will determine the different paths of their development. Everyone has eyes and can see that Peng Liyun's improvement in strength in the past year has not slowed down. Instead, it has accelerated. Run Li is the same. Although she is not as fast as Peng Liyun because of her age and the time she has spent practicing martial arts, compared to the past, there is a trend of acceleration. As for Lu Cheng, after losing the benefits, the speed of his improvement has obviously slowed down. 1 year to 7th pin. For months to advance from a weak 7th pin to a weak 6th pin. These are all terrifying and rapid improvements. But now almost 4 months have passed, and Lu Cheng has only advanced from a weak 6th pin to a normal 6th pin. Many martial artists who have cultivated to this level can do it. Of course, Lu Cheng's performance in the first battle was at ease. Obviously, he did not use his full strength. What I said was too arbitrary. His combat strength may have reached a strong 6th pin, or even the top 6th pin. But I dare to bet that he has not reached the inhuman stage. Besides, with his slow improvement speed, it will be difficult for him in another year. He will encounter the first bottleneck on the martial arts road. Whether he can overcome it or not, whether he can overcome it in 2 years, will determine whether he is a heavenly son of the age or not. As a rational, neutral, and objective evaluator, I'll put my words here. If Lu Cheng can reach the inhuman stage within this year, I'll remove this title and never use it again. In the face of all-knowing man in Ganghood's decisive words, many of the people who came to join in the fun were influenced. They quietly took screenshots and waited for the day when they could take them out. He had hundreds of thousands of fans, and his daily reposts and comments could reach up to thousands. Just thinking about the income from advertising every month was enough to make people envious. Once he deleted his account, the loss of all-knowing man in ganghood wouldn't just be a matter of tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands. I've heard that internet celebrities of this caliber can earn tens of thousands of yuan with just a small advertisement. One a day? How much would that cost? It's impossible to advertise every day. Anyway, it's definitely not a problem to earn hundreds of thousands a month. All-knowing man in ganghood is really going all out this time. He's going all out, but it doesn't benefit Lu Qing at all. Other than the emotional stimulation, there's no other benefit. He's simply harming others without benefiting himself. Tisk tsk, don't be fooled by all-knowing man in ganghood. Think about it. Peng Liyun was close to the inhuman stage in December. It's been almost 4 months now, and it seems like he hasn't broken through yet. Lu Qing definitely hasn't reached his level at that time, and his speed of improvement has obviously slowed down. It's not too much to double the time he needs, right? It's almost certain that he won't be able to break through within 8 months, right? And what's 8 months from now? It's December. What was all-knowing man in ganghood's original words? Within the year. Damn, isn't this a sure win for him? He didn't bet with anyone, so it's useless even if he wins. No way. With such a gimmick he can gain a lot of fans. Who knows how much the value of his account will increase. Hey smart. Waiting for the end of the year. Waiting for a miracle to happen. In Lu Cheng's fan forum, there was also a heated discussion about this matter. Seeing that there was a betting company, Yan Xiaoling reluctantly took out 500 yuan of pocket money and bet on the option of Lu Qing reaching the inhuman stage within the year. All-knowing man in ganghood self-titled account. The odds were 1 to 13. Come, buy if you want. You won't lose out or be cheated with just a few dozen yuan. Take a gamble, and a bicycle will turn into a motorcycle. Okamoto's fan had transformed into a gambling addict and was shouting everywhere in the forum. He had bet a month's worth of cigarette money. Lu Qing woke up on time and got up on time. Putting away the excitement and joy of yesterday's 1 versus 3, he calmed down again and continued his daily morning exercises. When he returned to the hotel and had a buffet breakfast with Yenjika, she found the Weibo of all-knowing man in ganghood and showed it to him. This guy is so despicable, using you to create hype. Yenjika puffed up her cheeks. Reaching the inhuman stage within the year. Lu Qing chewed on these 4 words. He was a little irritated and a little amused at the same time. Is he really sure that I won't be able to break through by then? My progress in these 4 months has slowed down a lot compared to before, but it's still much better than I expected. The training from that life and death battle was pretty useful. The breakthrough of willpower was the most direct, and this was one of the core contents of Dan's stage training. With the passage of time, it could be fed back to the spirit and affect the physical body. Yenjika didn't say much about this, as she was afraid that it would affect Lu Cheng's state of mind and state. She just outlined her dimples and said, "Yes, I'll give him a surprise when the time comes. Yes, I'll work hard. I won't respond now, in case he uses me to create hype again." Lu Qing stuffed a piece of toast into his mouth. After breakfast and a 20-minute rest, they walked to the martial arts gym they had booked and started today's special training. Since the 3 He brothers from Mingdao had already been chosen as their opponents, Geezer sure had gradually increased the daily practice of cooperation after he returned from the winter vacation. However, specific and targeted training could never replace the regular practice. It could not be used to overshadow the main practice, or it would affect the improvement of every player. Because of this, until they passed the challenge of Hudong, Songqing University Martial Arts Club's pre-match practice focused on cooperation. After lunch, Lu Qing originally wanted to take Yenjika to walk around the capital and relax for half a day. However, the girl had to fight against Mingdao, which was very important to her. She didn't want to go out, so she wanted to stay in the room and watch the video of the fight between Huahai and Mingdao over and over again to grasp every detail. Lu Qing, of course, took his little fairy's opinion as the most important, so he stayed and thought about it with her. When they were tired and needed to relax, it was inevitable that a single man and a single woman would whisper sweet nothings to each other. Lu Qing suddenly felt that this was quite good. It was much more interesting than walking around the Forbidden City and watching cherry blossoms. In the girls' dormitory of Capital College, Qiu Hailin, with a ponytail and a big forehead, walked quickly to the small dormitory. During this period, she felt that the world around her had become unreal. In class, in the dormitory, and at work in the student union, most of her classmates and teachers were always excitedly discussing the final round of the National University Martial Arts competition. Even if 70% or 80% of them didn't pay much attention to the martial arts circle, Qiu Hailin didn't feel like she was hallucinating. However, when her classmates and teachers talked about the martial arts competition, they often mentioned a very familiar name, Lu Cheng. This was the name that was mentioned the most frequently, second only to Ren Li and Peng Liyun. For Qiu Hailin, her high school classmates, the classmates she would occasionally meet during the holidays, were repeatedly mentioned and praised by the people around her and in her daily life. It really made her feel like she was dreaming. During the provincial youth tournament, she watched the match on the spot. Her acquaintances were the kind that knew Lu Cheng. Listening to their discussion and lamenting, she felt that Cheng had become very powerful and was no longer in the same world as them. Apart from that, she didn't feel anything else. When the youth tournament ended and she returned to Xioshan, the trend had passed. Only her parents and friends would ask if he was her high school classmate, and then they would sigh and lament for a while. In other words, this matter didn't intrude on her daily life. But now her classmates, both familiar and unfamiliar, and the teacher, who used to preach great principles, were all talking about Lu Cheng, a person they didn't know. Even her roommate, Ding Yisin, had almost become a fangirl. Suddenly, Qiu Hailin had some thoughts that she didn't usually have. If I tell them that Lu Cheng is my high school classmate, and we have a good relationship, how will they react? With this expectation, she opened the door of the small dormitory and saw Ding Yisin and the others, either in front of the computer or lying on the bed, browsing the news and Weibo, discussing Lu Cheng and the three He brothers. What are you talking about? Qiu Hailin asked knowingly. We're talking about the martial arts tournament. Ding Yisin, with ordinary features and fair skin, said excitedly. The three He brothers' formation won't be a problem for Lu Cheng. Lu Cheng? Qiu Hailin seized the opportunity and asked, who are you talking about? Hailin, what's wrong? Ding Yisin, who didn't usually talk about the martial arts tournament in the dormitory, was surprised. She smiled blankly and said, Lu Cheng and you are from the same hometown, Xing Province. He's from Xing Province? Let me see his photo. Qiu Hailin showed her surprise and excitement. Ding Yisin handed her phone to her and said, we're from the same hometown. Before she could finish, she heard Qiu Hailin exclaim in a low voice, my classmate. Your classmate? Ding Yisin and the others opened their eyes wide. Yes, my high school classmate. We have a good relationship. Is he so famous? Qiu Hailin unlocked her phone and showed the group photo she had prepared beforehand to Ding Yisin and the others. Wow! Ding Yisin suddenly got excited. She climbed out of bed and pulled Qiu Hailin's sleeve. I didn't know. Hailin, you're so good at hiding your true colors. Come on, tell me what Lu Cheng was like before. Hailin, you're such a love-struck fool. Hailin, help me get some autographs of Lu Cheng. Du Yi rolled her eyes at Ding Yisin. While chatting, Qiu Hailin excitedly shared Lu Cheng's high school anecdotes with her roommates. Under their bright eyes, she enjoyed an indescribable satisfaction. When she calmed down a little, she remembered to check the time of Lu Cheng's next match. She planned to watch it when she had time. Well, it's tomorrow night. Qiu Hailin whispered to herself. Songqing University vs. Mingdao. Chapter 372. 7:30 p.m., in the girls' dormitory of Capital College. Qiu Hailin, who couldn't get a ticket to the martial arts stadium in the city, turned on the computer like her roommates, Ding Yisin, Du Yin, and the other programs. Then she saw the host, Lu Cheng, and the guest commentator, Chen Sansheng. The only difference was that there were no snacks on her table, only a bottle of yogurt. Lu Cheng's first match today, right? Qiu Hailin asked. Yeah. Ding Yisin answered vaguely, her mouth stuffed with delicious salted egg yolk biscuits. It seems to be a special rule? asked Du Yin, who usually didn't watch martial arts competitions, but was attracted by the excitement around her. She tore off the packaging of her snacks and asked with a rice roll in her hand. Ding Yisun took a sip of water and said with satisfaction, "Of course. The three brothers of Qingdao know Mingdao will definitely team up. I read on the news that they applied for a special competition yesterday, 3 against 6. So Songqing University will have an advantage?" Qiu Hailan was confused, but she didn't want to ask. She turned her eyes to the screen and listened attentively to the guest commentator. In the studio, the host Lu Chang guided the topic. Today's match is very important for both Songqing University and Mingdao. If Mingdao loses, it'll say goodbye to the national competition. If Songqing University loses, it'll be at a disadvantage in the competition for the first place in the group. Shanbei has already won 2 consecutive matches, and Capital is also at ease. They've already secured the first place in their group. No one in the other groups wants to be the second and be forced to fight with them earlier. Chen Sanqing said jokingly, "Think about it. There will be highlights like Shanbei versus Songqing University and Capital versus Huahai in the quarterfinals. I can only describe it with this line: it's too beautiful to watch. Actually, it's a good thing. At least the quarterfinals will get more attention." Lu Chang looked at his partner and said, "Sanqing, what do you think Songqing University has to win this match?" "It's hard to say. Mingdao is not easy to deal with. Didn't Tianhua Hai win only when someone was injured?" Chen Sanqing thought for a while and said, "Yes." Lu Chang nodded. The He brothers' ability to advance and retreat as one is indeed very strong. If not for the influence of Xing Jingjing's illusion ability, Huahai would have had to pay a price to have a chance of winning them. At least, and Chaoyang's energy consumption would have doubled. Yeah, that's the strongest point of the He brothers. They seem to have telepathy and are able to maintain the formation while moving at high speed. They can attack with tacit understanding instead of staying in the same spot and being attacked passively. That day, and Chaoyang couldn't pay attention to one thing and lose sight of another. Chen Sanqing added, "It's not impossible for Songqing University to fail miserably." Lu Chang laughed when he heard that. "How is this a sewer? With the strength of Mingdao, they can be considered as a big river. Their active attack can effectively offset the advantage of the other teams, and they can even restrain the strong points of the opponents. But then again, the Bing formula in Lu Chang's Buddhist incantation of 9 words has a special effect of mental attack. For now, the formation of the He brothers is more afraid of this kind of attack. Didn't I say that before? Hudong is actually very similar to Mingdao. They just need to let the 3 substitutes and Wu Yong, the main force, go down directly to avoid being affected. Yu Ji is a good shield, and Han Peipei is a wandering infrasound. How can the 3 brothers last longer than a monster that can explode multiple times?" Chen Sanqing laughed. As for Lu Cheng's Dharma seal of 9 Buddhist incantation, I noticed that it is used by combining hand gestures and visualization. It probably has a direction. Even if it doesn't have a direction, it will affect the person who is in the front the most. The effect will decrease as time goes by. This way, the 3 brothers won't be completely at a loss. Lu Chang took over the topic. "I'm looking forward to this competition now. Sanqing, have you noticed the hot topic on Weibo these days? You mean all-knowing man in ganghood is betting that Lu Qing won't be able to reach the inhuman stage in his adult life." Chen Sanqing and all-knowing man in ganghood were both internet celebrities in the martial arts circle. They were familiar with each other. "Yes, what do you think about this? Who do you think will win?" Lu Chang asked with a smile. Chen Sanqing replied tactfully, "I really can't tell. Lu Cheng is a martial artist who is good at creating miracles. He can almost overturn other people's predictions every time. What all-knowing man in ganghood said is not unreasonable. I was in a dilemma. After careful consideration, I felt that both of them were possible, so I went to bet on Lu Cheng will reach the inhuman stage in his adult life." "Ha, why? You said no, and you were confused, but your body was honest?" Lu Chang joked. "Not really. I just thought that the odds were high. Anyway, I didn't spend much money. What if a miracle happened? Wouldn't I make a lot of money?" Chen Sanqing laughed at himself. Lu Chang shook his head. How do you think gambling companies make money? The higher the odds, the more money they give to the gambling companies. Okay, let's stop talking about this. Let's look at the highlights of the first 2 rounds of the competition. How can there be highlights of the first 2 rounds of Lu Cheng's match? It's only a few seconds. Chun Sanqing raised his bar and waited for the countdown. In the locker room, Geezer drank a mouthful of wine and looked at his teammates with a smile. There's nothing to say about this match. You all know how good the 3 boys of the He family are. Lu Cheng, Lin Ke, Yan Zheke, Li Mao, Kai Zongming, Lin Hua, the 6 of you will fight. Don't be too nervous. Remember what you usually practice. Don't look at me, brat. I'm not talking about you. Yes. Lu Cheng and the others answered excitedly. Their morale was quite high. When the match was about to start, they asked Sun Jian, He Zi, and Wang Dali to join them. Once again, they gathered in a circle and shouted together, We'll win. Songqing University will win. If we win this match, we'll be in the top 8 in the country. Even if Hudong can beat Huahai, we'll lose the next match and enter the stage of the competition. We're not targeting anyone by shaving Hudong's head. After shouting the slogan, Lu Qing pushed open the door of the locker room and took the lead to walk out. The crowd was like a sea, and the overhead lights were as bright as day. On the side of Mingdao University, He Yifeng looked at his 3rd brother, who was still playing with his mobile phone. Can't you take a break? The match is about to start. If we lose again, we'll have to pack up and go back to school. Okay, it's fine as long as we finish this match. Damn it, even when we're playing a game, there are people showing off their love and dragging us down. He Santai said without raising his head. Brother, why do you care so much? You're only in your 3rd year. You still have 1 year to go. Peng Liyun and Run Li are only in their 3rd year. Our period of rapid improvement is over. At most, we'll have a 7th pin fighter next year. The overall improvement of our strength is limited. Peng Liyun and Ren Li are 99% at the inhuman stage. Maybe Lu Cheng is also at the inhuman stage. Then what chance do we have? When I graduate, there'll only be 2 of you left. There's no need to fight. Yi Feng said with disappointment. The substitutes at the side were enjoying their daily bickering with relish, without the pressure of the match. Yi Santai finally finished playing. He raised his head and looked at his brother in surprise. Brother, I didn't expect you to be such a person. You want to win the championship. You can't judge a book by its cover. I don't. Yi Feng was stunned. If you don't, why do you care if Peng Liyun, Run Li, and Lu Cheng are at the inhuman stage? Anyway, it won't be a problem for our group to qualify next year. Let's see if we can get into the top 4 by luck. He Santai said with a "you're thinking too much" expression. Yi Feng was stunned. You're right, but he felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't put his finger on it. He Erlong chimed in. A person has to have lofty ambitions. Before he could finish, He Feng and He Santai turned their heads at the same time and shouted, Shut up, anime addict. Throw away all your figurines before you say that. After a short moment of silence, the coach, who had no sense of presence, clapped his hands and said weakly, It's time to go out. Looking at each other, the 3 He brothers slowly shed their usual state. Their eyes were full of vigor, and there was an obvious desire to fight. Let's go. They said in unison, as if one person was talking. Songqing University is strong, but we won't give up. And it's not impossible. When the frequency of posts on Lu Cheng's fan forum decreased, Yin Xiaoling and the rest shifted their attention back to the live broadcast screen. A total of 9 contestants from both sides had already entered the arena. Yan Zheke and Lin Hua were standing back to back, so were Kai Zongming and Li Mao. Lu Cheng and Lin Ke were standing in front of them, staring at the 3 He brothers opposite them. The 3 brothers were taking He Yifeng as the arrowhead. The special competition didn't allow time for conversation. After a minute of adjustment, the referee raised his right hand and said loudly, Begin. Dong. The 3 He brothers stepped to the side in unison. Their movements were neat and uniform. From afar, it looked like the same person had copied and pasted them. Ding ding ding. Their steps were the same size and speed were the same. They maintained their initial position and distance while running at a high speed. They wanted to bypass Lu Cheng with the dexterity and agility that was beyond imagination, and wandered toward Yin Zheke and Lin Hua. Chapter 373. Is this a shadow doppelganger? Except for their height and appearance, they look exactly the same. As soon as the match started, similar comments sprung up like bamboo shoots after a rain in the forums, Weibo, and Bullet Screen. Lu Cheng flicked his wrist and shook out a ball of glittering white cold light and a tyrannical red fireball, blocking the three He brothers from the ground and the air respectively. Burning ice and fire. Then he bulged his leg muscles and pulled up his pants. Like a cheetah on steroids, he turned his body sideways and fiercely pounced on the back of his enemies to kill them. Yin Zheke and Lin Hua kept a very close distance, and took the initiative to move forward to meet their opponents. Lin Ke, Li Mao, and Kai Zongming also came to attack them from two sides. At this moment, the He brothers stopped halfway, and turned around to face Lu Cheng in unison. The cold light on the ground and the fireball in the air brushed past them, and exploded in a place where no one was around. Flames and smoke filled the air. Lu Cheng was right in front of him. Without slowing down, he straightened his back, pulled back his right arm, and threw a forward punch at He Yifang, who was in the middle of the group. He Yifang's arm turned into a sword and turned back to slash horizontally. As soon as he touched Lu Cheng's fist, he felt that his opponent was much more powerful than him. He couldn't help but stagger back and take a step back. He had expected this. His shoulder exploded with strength, and the long sword turned into a half-arc, turning the slash into a lead. He led Lu Cheng's fist to hit him. This combined with Lu Cheng's momentum made He Yifang's center of gravity shake, and his body moved forward. At the same time, He Erlong and He Santai, who had maintained a distance of half a step, moved. One of them rushed forward and thrust out his right arm at high speed, aiming for the opponent's waist. The other took a step forward and kicked between the opponent's legs, forming a perfect coordination with He Yifang's lead. Heaven and Earth Mortal Sword Formation. Their real target was not Lin Hua and Yin Zheke at all. It was just a diversion. At the beginning of the match, they took advantage of the time difference to attack the opponent's main general to catch him off guard. In the face of such a terrifying pincer attack, Lu Cheng quickly took a deep breath and let his qi and blood flow back to his lower abdomen. He even hugged his dantian and stabilized his body. Boom. His dan force gushed out. His left hand held horizontally and rebounded towards He Erlong's right fist like a pipa. Then an electric current passed through his tailbone, and his right leg bounced out like a conditioned reflex. He stood on one leg. Lu Cheng's continuous moves seemed to be in a hurry, but in fact, there was order in the chaos. There was a distinction between the front and the back, and there was a distinction between the primary and secondary. He was able to see through the attacks of the two enemies as clearly as if he was watching a fire. Pa! Bang! The surface of He Erlong's fist was struck with 5 blood-red marks, and He Santai's whip kick was sent flying back. Fighting 1 against 2 and not falling into a disadvantageous position. If Lu Cheng was the only enemy, He Yifang, who had retreated, would have rushed forward again and attacked Lu Cheng's central palace. He would have played the rotation of the Heaven and Earth Mortal World Sword Formation to the best of his ability, making the 6th pin mighty, one of the Dan stage, unable to deal with him. However, Songqing University had the advantage of numbers. Lin Ke, Yin Zheke, and Kai Zongming were approaching. Of course, He Yifang didn't want to fall into such a tight encirclement at the beginning. He retreated and turned around. While Lu Cheng was dealing with He Erlong and He Santai, he suddenly rushed to the front of Yin Zheke and Lin Hua, twisting his waist and back aggressively and swinging his arm. Pa! His fist was like a sword tip, slashing at Yin Zheke's face like lightning. Yin Zheke didn't panic. She followed her usual practice and braced her feet, ignoring everything else. With a crack, she raised her arms to block He Yifang's fist. Lin Hua, on the other hand, didn't defend. She took half a step forward and chopped down with her fist. If they were facing only one enemy, the principle of their cooperation was one to defend and one to attack. At this time, He Yifang suddenly dispersed his strength and rolled his center of gravity like Mercury. He moved to Yin Zheke's back like a ghost, which made her defense ineffective and also made Lin Hua's attack miss. Pa! He Yifang lowered his waist and punched at the right side of Yanjika's back like the seabed collapse. If it were any other enemy, he would have punched directly in the spine. But facing such a beautiful girl, he couldn't help but show some mercy. As someone said, being good-looking was equivalent to weakening the supernatural ability of charm. On the other side, He Erlong, who had 5 bloody scratches on the back of his hand by Lu Cheng, took advantage of Lu Cheng's golden rooster stand to withdraw. He followed He Yifang and rushed to the 2 girls. He shook his left arm and hit Lin Hua, who was trying to save Yanjika. He Santai, on the other hand, tapped the ground with his toes, turned around, and ran like the wind toward Li Mao and Kai Zhongming. Lin Kai changed his direction midway to help him. Lu Cheng put down his right leg, stamped on the ground, and rushed toward his girlfriend. This was another rotation of the Heaven and Earth Mortal World Sword formation, which temporarily divided the 6 people of Songqing University into 2 groups. Yanjika knew the situation was not good when her defense failed. She imitated her boyfriend's reaction and leaned forward quickly. Taking advantage of the situation, she tightened her left leg and swept it backward. Then she tightened her left leg and swept it backward. Pa! The back of her foot kicked He Yifang's arm in time to block that dangerous blow. But her strength was not comparable to her opponent, who had been in the dance stage for a long time, so her kick failed to move the enemy. If she wanted to borrow the force to stand up, she would only fall into the following chain of killer moves. Thinking of this, Yanjika didn't withdraw her leg. Instead, she tightened her fascia and stopped the rebound. She shook her ankle lightly and stepped on He Yifang's arm. Using the force, she jumped back and approached her boyfriend who was about to arrive. He Yifang didn't spare Lu Cheng after gaining the upper hand. He seemed to have completely ignored Lu Cheng. He took a big step forward and approached the girl who hadn't had time to steady herself. Lin Hua was forced to take a step back by He Erlong's punch. He barely held on and was in imminent danger. At this moment, Lu Cheng had already arrived. He stretched his body as if he had transformed into a giant. The muscles of his right arm tightened, and he threw a punch at He Yifang. His other hand shook out a white cold light, which quickly swam toward He Erlong to save He Yifang from danger. He Yifang didn't dodge. He bulged his muscles and tendons, jumped half a step, and waved his arm in the opposite direction to block the attack. Bang! When the 2 of them collided, He Santai was forced to step back to reduce the force. However, He Santai, who had been pouncing on Li Mao and Kai Zhongming, suddenly stopped midway. He stomped on the ground and turned around fiercely. Like a big bird, he pounced on Lu Cheng's back and launched another pincer attack, leaving Lin Kai, Kai Zhongming, Li Mao and the others behind. The rotation of the Heaven and Earth Mortal World Sword formation was at will. In this situation, Yanjika, who had steadied herself, turned her body sideways and hit He Santai with her elbow. She wanted to block the attack from behind for her boyfriend. However, Lu Cheng and He Santai didn't have that kind of telepathy. When he was attacked by He Santai, he hesitated, and He Yifang took a few steps back. Then, He Yifang made a half-circle to escape from the lock-on, and approached Li Mao and Kai Zhongming. At the same time, He Erlong also gave up chasing Lin Hua. After dodging the ice burn, he cooperated with He Yifang and rushed toward the 2 boys from another direction. Bang! He Santai blocked Yanjika's elbow attack, and changed his direction to avoid Lin Kai's punch from behind. He drew an arc in the air and rushed toward Kai Zhongming and Li Mao. In an instant, danger came. Kai Zhongming, who never had stage fright, couldn't help but feel nervous. He quickly calmed down and visualized the scene of a snowy mountain collapsing. He threw a blast punch at He Yifang, who was approaching at high speed. As for Li Mao, he used the brutal blizzard and used his leg as a whip. He straightened his leg and lashed out at He Erlong. Bang! Bang! He Yifang and He Erlong chopped with their hands and legs, easily breaking the 2 men's attacks. With them in front, He Santai did not stop. He overtook them in the middle and punched Kai Zhongming and Li Mao's faces with both fists as fast as lightning. In a panic, the 2 boys either shrank back or retreated. They lost their posture and were about to be defeated by the He brothers. Fortunately, Lin Kai and Lu Cheng were close. The 3 brothers didn't take the risk. They split up and left in an arc in 3 directions. Bang! 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 In the following battle, The He brothers were like practicing plum blossom dummies. They kept moving between Lu Cheng and the others. They didn't want to take the credit and didn't take risks. They kept running left and right and couldn't stop. The Heaven and Earth Mortal World Sword formation is really extraordinary. In the live broadcast room, Chen Sanqing applauded. The formation was not only about defending, but also about attacking in different directions and setting up the whole formation. Sanqing, can you tell us what's so good about it? Lu Chang asked with a smile, seeing that the situation was stable and they had enough time. Chen Sanqing answered with a smile. You can pay attention to this. From the beginning until now, although the He brothers outnumbered their opponents, they have been outnumbering them. Why? It's because they have been using their footwork, wandering, and rotation to create a local advantage. If you're interested, you can carefully study their wandering route and the changes in the distance between them. It's very interesting. If it goes on like this, the 4 weaker members of Songqing University will be defeated sooner or later. Not to mention other things, they can't beat the He brothers in physical strength. At that time, Mingdao will have a real advantage in numbers. It sounds extraordinary, but it seems that Lu Cheng and the others haven't used their full strength yet. They haven't even used the Buddhist incantation of 9 words, Lu Chang said thoughtfully. Chen Sanqing analyzed. Even if they used it, it might not be effective. The He brothers keep a good distance from each other. You can affect one of them, but not the other two. Moreover, they can help each other in time. Unless Lu Cheng can use it continuously, but I don't think so. Otherwise, he can finish one of them quickly by using the Bing sound and the Xing sound. That makes sense. Lu Chang sighed. At this time, seeing that the battle was getting more and more intense, the He brothers were led to better positions by Yanzhika and the others. Lu Qing winked at Lin Ke, raised his hands, and drew the ancient characters. He exhaled at He Yifang and said, Bing. Ambushed from all sides, He Yifang was suddenly stunned and fell into a daze. He Erlong and He Santai didn't even think about it, and went to help. The alarm would be lifted in 2 seconds. At this moment, they heard another mysterious low shout in their ears. Okay. This shout was not made by Lu Cheng, but by Lin Quebec Lin Ke, who had been neglected all this time. Chapter 374. Attainment. A deep voice with a mysterious rhythm reverberated in the arena, accompanied by a figure pouncing toward He Yifang like a meteor. Lu Chang and Chen Sanqing, who were watching the live broadcast, were dumbfounded. He Erlong and He Santai were so shocked that they broke out in cold sweat. Lin Ke knows the attainment formula. He knows the attainment formula. Shouldn't only the disciples of the same sect know this secret skill at the same time? Thinking of this, He Erlong and He Santai's pupils shrank to the size of needles. Without thinking too much, they reacted instinctively. It was as if they had telepathy. Almost at the same time, they retracted their qi and blood, gathered their strength, spirit, and feeling alive at one point in their lower abdomens. Boom. Like a volcano erupting, the Dan stage gushing out. Their thighs swelled and the ground cracked. Like arrows piercing through the clouds, they shot toward He Yifang. Faced with such an unexpected incident, they were no longer able to hide their strength and carry out the plan step by step. Their individual strength was already much weaker than the enemy's, and they were no longer able to carry out their plan step by step. The secret skill of the Heaven and Earth Mortal Sword formation, Cloud-Piercing Lightning Sword. This was a secret skill to increase the speed of the disciples who set up the formation. If their rhythm was disrupted by the enemy, they could help each other in time. Previously, the He brothers moved nimbly and orderly, always maintaining a certain change in the formation. Even if Lu Cheng and Lin Ke caught up with one of them, they would have to deal with the joint attack first. It was difficult for them to entangle with the enemy, so they could escape smoothly. Below the level of physical invulnerability, or below the level of inhuman stage with internal training of root pulp, martial artists who didn't practice Vajra invulnerability or martial arts like Yuji had to be careful when facing the joint attack of low-level enemies. If they were careless, they would be hit once or twice, which could hurt their muscles and bones and even cause serious internal injuries. At this stage, most of the martial artists had high attack power and low defense power. If they were able to hit someone 2 or 3 times, it would cause fatal damage. If they were hit by someone 2 or 3 times, it would also be the same. Of course, they could use force concentration to deflect the force and counterattack. They wouldn't be afraid of being hit unless it exceeded a certain level. However, the He brothers' sword techniques were all aimed at vital points. They had no choice but to defend and avoid, even if Lin Ke had the yin-yang twist. It was precisely because of this that the He brothers not only did not use the cloud-piercing lightning sword in the previous rotation, they did not even use the Dan stage explosion. They had initially completed the strategic goal of preserving themselves and dragging down the weaker enemy. But now Lin Ke's unexpected attainment formula and Lu Cheng's army formula worked together perfectly, disrupting their plan and forcing them to unleash their full strength in haste. Bang! Bang! He Erlong and He Santai's lightning sword pierced through the clouds. Taking advantage of the short distance between them, they were only half a beat behind Lin Ke, and were about to reach their big brother's side. In that case, Lin Ke would have to disregard his own safety and force a move to defeat He Yifang, who had not yet recovered from the army formula. But if he did that, not only would he leave the field at the same time, there was also a small possibility that he would be injured, which would seriously affect the rest of the competition. At this moment, Lin Ke, who was about to create a sonic boom with his afterimages, suddenly stopped, just like he did every time before he performed Meteor Burst. He Erlong and He Santai didn't expect Lin Ke to stop, so they missed their target. They brushed past each other and rushed to He Yifang's side. Bam! Lin Ke retracted the momentum of the emergency brake and immediately used force concentration and yin-yang twist to redirect them to the soles of his feet. He stomped hard on the ground. The 16th move of the fighting sect, ground cracking. Clang! The arena shook twice. He Erlong and He Santai didn't have time to retract the momentum of the lightning sword, piercing through the clouds. They lost their center of gravity temporarily, and almost collided with He Yifang. He Yifang was even more embarrassed. He had just recovered from the sharp and fierce feeling of the army formula when a crack appeared under his feet, and gravel spurted out. He Yifang jerked his left foot up, and his body leaned back. His head was still dizzy and his muscles were still trembling. Lin Ke took a step forward and took advantage of the momentum to leap into the air like a mighty falcon. He leaped over He Erlong and He Santai, who were blocking his way. Then he stretched out his hand and pushed He Yifang, who was trembling in fear because of the army formula, and had lost his stance because of the earth fissure. Lin Ke jumped over He Yifang, turned around in midair, and landed on the ground. The referee at the side immediately pulled He Yifang over and threw him out of the ring. He was still dizzy, so he was out of the fight. He Yifang was eliminated. If Lin Ke had used his full strength, the audience would have heard the sound of He Yifang's neck bones breaking, and seen his head being pressed into his chest. He Erlong and He Santai knew that they had lost, but they didn't want to admit defeat. They immediately bumped into each other, and used the momentum to rebound. They turned into an arc and rushed toward Lin Quebec. They wanted to take advantage of the fact that he hadn't regained his footing and launch a series of attacks to get back at him. But at this moment, they heard the wind behind them and saw a shadow looming over them. Lu Cheng was closing in at high speed. In the audience's eyes, after Lu Cheng used the army formula, he slowed down for a while before pouncing out. He arrived in time when Lin Ke rushed, paused, and leaped. The hair on their backs stood up, and the shadow appeared under their feet. He Erlong and He Santai trembled and didn't dare to continue attacking Lin Quebec. They swayed their center of gravity and changed their footwork. Once again, they drew an arc and moved quickly. But without He Yifang, Lu Cheng and Lin Ke could each lock onto a target and chase them to the end. They didn't have to worry about being attacked by Lu Cheng's rotation. If He Erlong and He Santai really wanted to close in, it would be 2 against 2. The 4 of them were not the only ones in the arena. Although Yan Zhika, Lin Hua, Kai Zhongming, and Li Mao had lost a lot of energy after fighting with the mighty ones of the dance stage, they were not at their limit and could still block the opponents. With their interference, He Erlong and He Santai were gradually restrained and the distance between them and Lu Cheng and Lin Ke was getting shorter and shorter. Bam! Lin Hua gathered his remaining strength and quickly pulled back his leg to kick forward, forcing He Erlong to either fight back or change his direction. With his center of gravity like Mercury, he Erlong moved his spine in time and dodged to the left of Lin Hua. But Yen Zhika was waiting there. She jumped half a step, lowered her shoulders, and hit his abdomen with a crushing punch. He Erlong took a quick breath and suddenly contracted his lower abdomen. He then forced himself to move sideways, trying to bypass Yen Zhika. However, with this delay, Lu Qing was able to catch up easily without using the attainment formula. Retracting and releasing his qi and blood force, he channeled the surging force of the dance stage into his leg and kicked out with his right foot at an extremely fast speed. It was so fast it left afterimages. Unable to dodge, he Erlong lowered his center of gravity and used force concentration. His legs suddenly became thicker and fiercely kicked out. Bam! He Erlong was kicked to the side. He quickly retracted his qi and blood and stabilized himself with double explosion. Lu Qing channeled the rebounding force into his own force concentration and completed the combination of brutal blizzard and dance stage explosion. Bam! His fist struck out again with a heart-wrenching punch, colliding with He Erlong's arm that was raised in time. He Erlong retreated several steps before he could stabilize himself. Lu Qing was calm and collected. He retracted his qi and strength and prepared for another explosion. He fiercely pounced on his opponent who had lost his stance. His right hand reached out like lightning and grabbed his opponent's shoulder. Lu Qing gathered his qi and blood, force, and spirit again. His body expanded, and he quickly turned his waist and back. He lifted He Erlong up, stretched his arms, and directly threw him out. Bam! He Erlong's feet landed on the ground, and he stood stupidly on the ground outside the arena. At the stage where he couldn't dodge, Lu Qing's combination of multiple explosions and brutal blizzard could make any 7th pin and 8th pin dance stage expert doubt their life. On the other side, Li Mao used the momentum of the mighty mega avalanche and whipped He Santai, forcing him to change his direction at the last moment. Kai Zhoming was within reach of him. Little Ming slightly arched his back and extended his right arm to block. His left fist quickly and fiercely hit He Santai's dantian with the sound of wind. At such a close distance, He Santai couldn't dodge at all. He could only use the strength in his shoulder to lift his arm and cover his lower abdomen with his palm. Puff! Just as Kai Zhoming hit him, he felt his opponent's qi, blood, spirit, and force shrink at the same time, as if he had hit nothing. Just as He Santai completed his force concentration, he heard a loud bang behind him. It was as if a bomb had been detonated in the depths of the arena beneath his feet. The arena shook violently. Lin Ke had arrived and used the ground fissure of the fighting sect. Bam! He released his qi and strength and subconsciously applied force to the bottom of his feet. He resisted the ground's fissure and the spurting of broken bricks to maintain his balance. Bam! Li Mao caught up, leaned sideways and hit He Santai's spine with his elbow. Kai Zhoming opened his 5 fingers and turned his fist into a palm. Using the second force of his joints and fascia, he suddenly bounced up and pressed down on He Santai's clothes. There was a wolf in front and a tiger behind. Moreover, Kai Zhoming's attack couldn't be neutralized by force concentration. He Santai could only sigh. Seeing his opponent being held down by the referee, he heard a voice that drowned out the sound of the trumpets. The final result is that Songqing University Martial Arts Club wins. In the special competition format, there was more than one referee. The final result is that Songqing University Martial Arts Club wins. Along with the referee's announcement, the surrounding audience cheered. The final result is that Songqing University Martial Arts Club wins. In the live broadcast room, the hosts Lu Chang and guest Chen Sansheng, who were speechless after Lin Ke used the attainment formula, finally came back to their senses. Wonderful! I didn't expect Lin Ke to know the attainment formula. Lu Chang exclaimed. Yay, who would have thought? Chen Sansheng's tone was complicated. Lu Chang thought for a while and asked in confusion. Since Lin Ke knows the attainment formula, why didn't he and Lu Qing cooperate like this before? It's a matter of distance. The distance between the He brothers was better, so they weren't affected by the army formula at the same time. It was also more convenient for rescue. Even if Lin Ke used the attainment formula, he might not be able to catch them for 2 or 3 seconds when they were affected by the army formula, let alone make them make mistakes. Chen Sanqing explained in detail. No, I mean the earliest. Lu Chang quickly corrected himself. The earliest? Wasn't Lu Qing attacked by the He brothers in turn at the beginning? Even if Lin Ke used the attainment formula, he wouldn't be able to catch their tail. Chen Sanqing analyzed the situation at the beginning of the battle. What's more, the He brothers all withdrew as soon as they made a move. Even if Lin Ke used the attainment formula, he wouldn't be able to catch their tail. Lu Chang shook his head and corrected him again. No, I mean at the very beginning when Lu Qing used the burning of ice and fire to stop the three He brothers. At that time, all he had to do was to use the army formula to control He Santai, who was at the rear. Not only would He Erlong and He Yifeng be slowed down by inertia, but they would also be affected because of the short distance. Then Lin Ke would use the attainment formula to get rid of He Santai and repeat what happened just now. In other words, if Songqing University had done that, the battle would have been over in less than 10 seconds. Chen Sanqing was stunned. He tried hard to think of what had prevented Songqing University from doing that, but after a long time he couldn't find any problems. He could only say with a bitter smile, "Who knows what they were thinking?" Chapter 375. Who knows what they're thinking? Ha 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 ha. How could their thinking be so simple? Weren't they just planning to use this opportunity to train their substitutes? Not long after Chen Sanqing's words, "Superstitious thoughts are not allowed" posted a post on Weibo with the caption, "Pounding the ground and laughing out loud." His username was He Xiaowei, a well-known commentator. Rivals of the same trade. Yeah, I didn't expect Songqing University to be so strong. In the last round, Huahai lost a lot of soldiers to win Mingdao. Now they're playing cat and mouse. And Lu Qing didn't show his full strength. He played with ease from beginning to end. But Lin Ke showed something. Chen Sanqing's vision is not good. He used to be a sixth-pin fighter, but he didn't see it as clearly as you, sect leader He, who doesn't know how to be Zhuge Liang in hindsight. Among the comments, Eternal Nightfall, Yin Xiaoling, who had been scrolling through Weibo in search of praises for Lu Qing, also saw the post. She was overjoyed and excitedly forwarded it. Does this mean Songqing University is stronger than Huahai? And they have a higher chance of winning the next round? Just as she sent the message, she suddenly remembered all the rumors about He Xiaowei being a bad healer. If he stands on Songqing University's side, then I've done something wrong with my good intentions. With this thought in mind, Yin Xiaoling shuddered and deleted the question she had just forwarded. She prayed silently. No, I didn't see it. After doing this, she switched to Lu Cheng's fan forum. She thought it would be better to ask Unparalleled Dragon King for help. At this time, celebratory posts filled the forum. So easy. All the good names are taken by dogs. Sent an emoji with a snap of fingers. Brahman sent a laughing emoji and said, "Haha, I was so nervous. It was all a trick. My idols are so bad. Alas, I don't have enough money this month." Okamoto's fan said in a daze, "I bet on Mingdao, thinking that if Songqing University loses, I can at least make some money to comfort my heart. If Songqing University wins, I can exchange money for happiness. No matter what, I'm not at a disadvantage." Yin Xiaoling couldn't help laughing. After a while, she unparalleled Dragon King. Are Lu Qing won more easily than Huahai? Does this mean they'll be the first in the group? Steady my ass. Haven't you heard of the phrase restraint? Different characteristics, different strengths. Using the same opponent as the standard is not accurate at all. Unparalleled Dragon King laughed and scolded Yin Xiaoling. Yin Xiaoling said, "I don't understand, that's why I came to ask you." Alright, I'll be serious. Who would have thought that Lin Ke had also mastered the attainment formula in the Buddhist incantation of the 9 symbolic words? I'm afraid it's more than that. When paired with Lu Cheng's army formula, it was a perfect counter to the 3 He brothers, who were lacking in this aspect. Winning against them would be relatively easy, whereas in Chaoyang didn't have any secret arts related to mental attacks or supernatural abilities. Lu Qing too. He, strong. Lu. Yin Xiaoling watched attentively. After a long while, she finally said, I'm looking forward to seeing my Lu Qing go all out. In the ring, Lu Qing listened to the cheers, applause, and trumpets of the audience and watched the He brothers dejectedly leave. He put away his stance and immediately turned to Yenjika with a happy expression. He extended his right hand to her and asked with a smile, "How do you feel?" Yenjika's face was red from the excitement of the fight. She high-fived Lu Qing with her bright eyes and said, "Not bad." Although the He brothers didn't attack her for more than 2 moves each time in order to prevent Lu Qing and Lin Kei from catching up and surrounding her and breaking her rotation, their cooperation was indeed outstanding. Moreover, they had the advantage in terms of realms, so they still made Yenjika and Lin Hua face many challenges. This allowed the girl to truly experience what it was like to fight a real battle with an 8th pin Dan stage fighter, who didn't use force concentration. She gained a lot. They looked at each other and smiled. Lu Qing walked to Lin Hua and high-fived her while praising, "You did a good job." Sun Jian and Lin Hua couldn't master the internal training because they couldn't meditate, so their martial arts strength improved slowly. The difference between them was getting smaller and smaller, until they were almost equal. At this time, Lin Hua, who was more careful, surpassed her boyfriend in the order of appearance. "I think so too," Lin Hua replied humorously. Lu Qing moved and extended his hand to Li Mao again. He laughed and said, "Good fight." Li Mao exhaled, raised his hand, and bumped it with Lu Qing's hand. "I didn't expect that I could fight so many moves with a Dan stage fighter. Although it wasn't continuous." Lu Qing replied with a smile and turned to look at Kai Zhongming. Before he could reach out and talk to him, Little Ming took the initiative to say, "Hey, I'm so happy. Haha, I won against a Dan stage fighter. You were the last one to fight, but..." Lu Qing twitched his mouth and didn't talk to him anymore. In the end, he faced Lin Kei and wanted to say something. But he didn't think there was anything to say, so he just extended his right hand. Lin Kei's expression was indifferent and his eyes were deep. He slapped Lu Qing's hand and said calmly, "Good fight. Don't copy me. Don't steal my lines." Lu Qing was dumbfounded as he watched his brother-in-law turn and walk up the stone stairs. He suddenly understood the cold humor that reporter Xu Zongming had mentioned. Yenjika taught the attainment formula to Lin Kei shortly after school started. When he mastered it, she asked him to report to her grandpa and grandma on her behalf. The background of the story was that Lin Kei was also interested in the 9 words formula. He got the information from his cousin and often studied it. Because of this, he consulted Lu Qing with his cousin. Lu Qing, who had mastered 3 of the 9 words formula, was warm-hearted and helpful. He helped Lin Kei at all costs and combined it with what he had learned. Finally, Lin Kei figured out the attainment formula. The kind and honest Lu Qing didn't hide this matter. He took the initiative to hand over the true meaning of the attainment formula to Lin Kei and Yenjika. He even apologetically compensated them with the swordsman formula, which was considered an exchange with Shushan's study. Look, what a promising young man. He didn't take advantage of the dark side, a gentleman was careful, and he didn't take advantage of others. As for whether Yenjika's grandpa and grandma would believe this story, Lu Qing didn't care. He was now confident enough to enter the Ji family's door. The members of Songqing University Martial Arts Club waved to the surroundings. They didn't stay for long because there was still a match to come. They walked down the arena one after another and met up with Gizershi and Hizi. They walked towards the locker room. As they walked, Lu Qing turned to look at Yenjika beside him. He saw that her mind was wandering and her eyes were bright. He didn't know where her attention had drifted. "What are you thinking about?" Lu Qing lowered his voice and laughed. Yenjika pursed her lips and smiled. Her eyes seemed to contain stars. "I'm thinking about the fight just now." At this point, she couldn't hide her pride as she added, "That's right. I feel that I fought so well." Lu Qing almost burst out laughing. He found this Yenjika quite cute. When he was about to enter the locker room, he looked back at his teammates behind him and happened to meet Kai Zhongming's eyes. Hey, I beat a mighty one of the dance stage," Little Ming repeated happily. "Are you done?" Lu Qing scolded him with a smile. Kai Zhongming clicked his tongue. "Of course not. I'm still waiting for the replay of the match. I'll take a screenshot of the last scene and send it to my friends. I've never seen such a shameless person. Lu Qing laughed dryly and mocked talker. Thanks for the compliment. Kai Zongming didn't care. Before they finished their crosstalk, they heard Sun Jian and the others in the locker room shouting together. Top 8. Top 8. After Shanbei, Songqing University Martial Arts Club also secured a spot in the top 8. Next would be the fight for the first place in the group. 3 minutes later, another locker room door opened. Led by An Chaoyang, the members of Huahai Martial Arts Club filed out. They made the same choice as Lu Cheng and the others last time. They didn't pay attention to the matches in the same group before the match. Of course, Lu Cheng and the others who had beaten Mingdao had just finished showering. They were leisurely applying medicine to relax their muscles while watching the live broadcast on TV. In the first round, An Chaoyang was the first to enter the arena. He was also up against Soul Voice Han Peipei. Without the army formula and the attainment formula, he relied on his flowing footwork to quickly close the gap between him and his opponent. When he had closed the gap to a certain extent, he made a Dan Stage 11 explosion. He relied on his speed and reaction to take on Han Peipei's sound wave feedback, just like how Lu Cheng had dealt with Lu Xuanjin. Han Peipei was defeated in 43 seconds. In the second round, An Chaoyang, who practiced the water sect of Xinghai, showed strength beyond the normal sixth pin. He used a simplified physical invulnerability move Flood, for the first time. He narrowly defeated Yu Ji despite the lingering nausea and dizziness. In the third round, An Chaoyang voluntarily left the ring. In the fourth round, Piao Yuan easily defeated Wu Yong. Huahai won Hudong 3-1. At this point, the two qualified teams in Group D were determined. The first team would have an advantageous position in the quarterfinals. In the locker room after watching An Chaoyang's fight, Li Mao, Sun Jian and the others subconsciously looked at Lu Cheng. Lu Cheng patted his martial arts suit. His eyes were full of fighting spirit. He pretended to stand up leisurely and said, "Let's go. It's time to go back." There were only 4 days left before the next match. On the bus back, Yenjika was still excited. Sometimes she would discuss with Lu Cheng whether there was anything she could improve on in the ring, and sometimes she would talk to him about An Chaoyang's performance just now. When they were stuck in traffic, her excitement faded away and the side effects of the large consumption appeared. "Cheng, I'm going to sleep for a while. Wake me up when we arrive." Yenjika moved her body and found a comfortable position to lean on Lu Cheng. "Okay." Lu Cheng smiled and nodded. Not long after, Yenjika fell asleep. As she slept, suspicious tears fell from the corner of her mouth. Half an hour later, the bus finally returned to the hotel. Lu Cheng tilted his head and looked at the girl with a smile. Gently, he reached out and grabbed her other arm. Then, using his waist and abdomen, he shook her onto his back. The whole process was done in one breath. Yenjika was not startled at all. Lu Cheng carried Yenjika on his back and got off the bus with a few bags full of martial arts clothes, martial arts shoes and girls' sundries. Lin Hua couldn't help but pinch Sun Jian and whisper, "You're so cute. Look at Cheng." Chapter 376. Sun Jian felt both amused and wronged. When they were in love, he had done the same thing. Now that they were an old couple, why should he care about this? Cheng had been dating Yenjika for more than a year, but he still had this attitude. No wonder he was a pervert who practiced at 5:30 every day regardless of rain or shine. He wants to be the public enemy of all men. Sun Jian murmured. While speaking, he turned to look at the other male members of the martial arts club, trying to get their approval. However, after looking around, he sadly found that everyone was indifferent. He could even help them come up with their lines. "Sorry, I don't have a girlfriend." Li Mao. "I don't have a girlfriend either." Wang Dali. "What's a girlfriend?" Lin Quebec. "His wife died a long time ago." Coach Sher. "I have a girlfriend, but she can't see Cheng showing off his love." Kai Zongming. Alas. Sun Jian covered his face and sighed. Carrying Yenjika on his back, Lu Cheng walked softly through the lobby and took the elevator to her room. He opened her bag, took out the key card and swiped it. He pushed the door open and walked to the bedside. He lowered his center of gravity, leaned back and slowly put her on the bed. He pulled the other end of the quilt and covered her body. Lu Cheng stretched his muscles, tightened his muscles and skin, and controlled the vibration force. He massaged Yenjika's arms, thighs and calves with moderate strength so that she wouldn't feel sore when she woke up tomorrow morning. Finally, he squatted down and helped her remove her shoes and socks. He carefully massaged her feet and put them under the quilt. After doing all this, Lu Cheng came to the bedside, bent down and kissed Yenjika's pink lips. He whispered with a smile, "Good night." He closed the curtains, turned off the master control, and slowly left the room. He pulled the door just right and didn't make any obvious noise. At this time, the room was unusually quiet. It was dark all around, and only a little light came in through the curtains, bringing a sense of peace. Yenjika, breathing slowly, suddenly opened her left eye and quietly looked around. Then she sat up and looked at the door with bright eyes. "Good night, silly Chung," she murmured to herself in a low voice, with a hint of sweetness hidden in the corners of her eyes. As a girl with self-control, she had already woken up when the bus stopped, but she was still in a confused state. When Lu Cheng carried her on his back, she simply pretended to be asleep and quietly enjoyed the care of her boyfriend. Beep. Suddenly, she received a special notification on her phone. Yenjika picked up her phone blankly. Before she unlocked the screen, she saw Lu Cheng's naughty smile. "Sleeping Beauty, you can get up and brush your teeth now. You know I'm awake?" Yenjika was stunned. Your heartbeat and reactions when you're asleep are completely different from when you're awake. I've been in contact with your body all this time. If I didn't notice it, wouldn't my listening skill and ice mirror unique skill have been in vain? Yenjika replied. Then I can't pretend to be asleep in the future, right? What other surprises are there? I'm going to smash the table. Okay, I'll seriously cooperate with you, just like just now. Lu Cheng replied with a snickering emoji. I'm actually speechless. Do you know? Yenjika turned her body and hit the pillow. Then she put her face close to it and hugged it in her arms. The smile on her face was clear and pure. Lu Cheng had already returned to his own room. Sitting on the bed and leaning on the pillow, he said with a naughty smile, "Then don't talk. Just kiss me." Bah. Yenjika spat and suddenly remembered what happened just now. She thought of a question. Chung, let me ask you something. I've been wanting to ask you for a long time, but I've forgotten. What is it? Lu Cheng felt more and more that his girlfriend was actually a curious baby. What are you obsessed with? Yenjika sent a thoughtful emoji of rolling eyes. For example, Dirty Tong is obsessed with collarbones. Some people are obsessed with long hair. What about you? Me? I'm obsessed with little fairies. Lu Cheng answered without hesitation. I knew you would say that. Yenjika pursed her lips and unconsciously showed her 2 dimples. She said to herself, I always feel that this answer is a bit vague. Are you afraid of being tricked? It's true. Your eyes, your nose, your mouth, your ears, your earlobes, your neck, and your collarbone. I like all of them. And Lu Cheng typed with both hands and suddenly found this topic to be very flirtatious. Stop. You pervert. It's going to be erotic if you continue. Yenjika thought of something and suddenly blushed. Okay, then what do you think I'm obsessed with? Lu Cheng restrained the urge to go to the girl's room and asked back. Yenjika rolled her eyes and sent a "there's only one truth" emoji. Every time I wear a dress, you like to look at my legs. Sometimes you even look at them secretly. When you massage my feet, you also feel weird. Actually, you're obsessed with legs and feet, right? Cough. How did she find out? A girl's sixth sense? Lu Cheng blushed and sent a scratching head emoji. A little. And didn't I tell you that I like every part of your body? Hey, don't explain. Explaining is covering up. Go to sleep. I'm going to brush my teeth and sleep. You should sleep early too. Maybe it was because Li Liantong had instilled this very normal point of view into Yenjika's head, so she didn't care too much about it. Instead, she felt a kind of joy of I guessed right. She stretched her arms, got off the bed, turned on the light, and went straight to the bathroom. After saying goodnight to each other, Yenjika, who had exhausted a lot of energy, went to sleep. Lu Cheng saw that he still had a lot of time, so he browsed the forum and Weibo to read everyone's comments. He enjoyed their praise for the martial arts club and looked forward to their expectations for the next match. During this time he also browsed the Longhu Club forum. Since most of his time was occupied by practicing martial arts, dating and studying, although he still browsed the forum every day to avoid being out of touch with the society, he didn't post much. In the past year or so, there had been a lot of controversies on the Longhu Club forum. For example, Sun, who liked to post beautiful photos of herself and had many followers, was exposed for using other people's photos to impersonate herself. This caused a lot of forum members to be angry, and some even suspected whether she was a man or a woman. Since then, the account Sun disappeared and never appeared again. The aftereffects of this incident were that there were no aftereffects. After a month or two, another female forum member posted pictures of herself, and everyone praised her and warmly treated her. A big forum was a small society, and it was more direct. Lu Qing watched silently and occasionally posted. He learned a lot about the ways of the world and strange things. After reading the first page, he closed the app with self-control and went to the bathroom to brush his teeth. When he came back, he saw a message from Monitor Chiu Hailan. Congratulations to your group for advancing. Monitor's tone is still so official. Lu Qing laughed and replied with 2 words, thank you. In the girls' dormitory of Capital College. He replied. Ding Yisin Duyin, and the others squatted beside Chiu Hailan and shouted excitedly. Chiu Hailan tied her hair into a ponytail, showing her signature forehead, and smiled reservedly. What's the fuss? It's normal for classmates to reply. In a hotel not far from the Capital Martial Arts Arena, and Chaoyang, Piao Yuan, and Xing Jingjing gathered in Chaoyang's room to watch the replay of the match between Songqing University and Mingdao. Songqing University is full of surprises. It's either Lu Cheng or Lin Ke, said Piao Yuan, stroking his bald head. Zhang Dongliang, who was injured, frowned and said, how much strength did Lu Qing use? Is it 30%? More or less. Lu Yuntao, who was also injured, answered seriously. Beside them, Xing Jingjing kept a distance from them, but she was very serious. Phew, Lu Qing is really like Peng Liyin 2 years ago. Piao Yuan heaved a sigh of relief. He was like a strong and unstoppable shadow. And Chaoyang opened his eyes and said with a smile, before he fought with Peng Liyin last year, Lu Qing could be said to have some resemblance to him. But after that fight, he was different from anyone else. This was an opponent worthy of attention and respect. 2 days later, when Capital College and Guangnan also made it to the next round, the official Weibo of the National University Martial Arts Competitions released a poster, previewing the most anticipated match of the 3rd round. On the left side of the poster was Chaoyang in a dark blue martial arts suit. His handsome face and bright eyes gave him a literary temperament. On the right side of the poster was Lu Qing in a white martial arts suit with black edges. He was tall and straight, with distinct facial features and gentle temperament, showing the feeling of a strong master. In addition, there were their respective captions on the poster. Former champion, soaking in flames for 3 years, soars again today. Beginner in martial arts, rising like a shooting star, dominating the challenge. Sleeping tiger versus sky-shaking python. When Lu Qing saw the poster, he was excited at first, but when he read the last line, he almost burst into tears. Chapter 377. After reading the poster, Yenjika turned her head to look at her boyfriend with a complicated expression. She, who was sitting on the bed with her legs crossed, suddenly leaned to one side and started to laugh loudly. Haha, actually the nickname Sky Shaking Roar suits you quite well, especially after you mastered the 9 words formula. Every time you fight, you will roar. Haha. Lu Qing looked at her helplessly and said, I just feel that it's so low class. It's so wild and wild. Sigh, as the saying goes, the person in charge of Gaofan TV stations to record program didn't really get hung up on a street lamp. It only shows that the martial artists in our province are too law-abiding. For example, someone like me. Yenjika didn't continue to tease her boyfriend. She refreshed her Weibo to see the attitude and comments of various people towards the competition. Mo Jingting used a cat head emoji and said, My junior uncle is the best. Shiyuejian of Wuyue Club said. It feels like a mini competition between Wuyue Club and Xinghai Club. 3 generations of Chun posted a long Weibo with a lot of words. Just now, a friend sent me a private message asking if Lu Qing and En Chaoyang were to fight at their peak, who would win? Let me share my opinion. En Chaoyang didn't belong to any sect at first, and his body wasn't particularly talented. However, with his unique understanding and innovation of martial arts, he not only reached the Dan stage step by step, but also gained the favor of Xinghai's Queen of Thought, and started to get in touch with the top martial arts. Until this year, as everyone can see, his accumulation started to erupt. He has reached the level of professional 6th pin, and mastered the simplified physical invulnerability. Wait, you can say that he is the standard direct disciple of a big force. He doesn't have any obvious shortcomings in any aspect. Besides, Xinghai's martial arts heritage is half of the water sect stuff. There is also the earth and Tai Chi content. And Chaoyang didn't show these in the previous competition, which means that what we see is not his full strength. As for Lu Qing, since the start of the national competition, he has been at ease. Some people suspect that he hasn't even shown half of his strength. Even so, he still gave us the surprise of attainment formula. How will Lu Qing perform when he gives it his all? I'm looking forward to it. The first 2 matches can't be used as objective standards for comparison. After all, there are restrictions in terms of fighting styles. Furthermore, even though En Chaoyang doesn't have any secret arts related to spiritual attacks, the water sect's force of acceptance has a good weakening effect on such arts. He won't be at a disadvantage because of this. In conclusion, I think they have a 50-50 chance. After carefully reading the long post, Yenjuka swiped her fingers to find comments that fit her current mood. Sure enough, the first one was very consistent. After reading so much, you're just going to say 50-50? The content after that was similar. Do you have any professional ethics? I've already taken off my pants, and you're showing me this. After Lu Qing and Yenjuka enjoyed this, the girl continued to look at other Weibo posts. All-knowing man in Gang had said, Lu Qing seems to be unfathomable, but in reality, he has too many tricks up his sleeves. He is able to counter the fighting style of weaker opponents. As for En Chaoyang, he has not shown his full potential yet. Furthermore, he has been practicing martial arts for many years. His experience in all aspects is better than Lu Qing's. I personally have high hopes for him. Superstitious thoughts are not good, replied. What's there to predict? Remember this truth. What is a god's favored son? That is, under the situation where there is not a big difference in realm or 2 ranks, if you have high hopes for them, they will win. If you don't, they will still win. Lu Qing is a god's favored son now. After he Xiaowei posted this Weibo post, there were immediately many comments. Okay, I'll listen to you and bet on En Chaoyang. Xiaowei the old immortal is so powerful. Great analysis, I'll bet on En Chaoyang. Yenjuka was amused and worried at the same time. She blurted out, Wow Qing, that toxic healer has high hopes for you. Lu Qing was browsing the forum. He paused for a moment, then laughed and said, I'm not afraid of toxic healers. Why? Yenjuka blinked, and was very curious. Lu Qing snorted and said, Because I have Coach Yan's brilliance shining on me. Yenjuka couldn't help but laugh. She pretended to be in a difficult position and said, But this time I have to fight too. I don't have enough brilliance. Not only do you have to fight, but it will most likely be a battle between best friends. Lu Qing added with a smile. In the end, he said with some worry, In terms of martial arts, you are not much worse than her. It's just that the illusion supernatural ability that affects the air is very troublesome. This is still okay. Yenjuka looked up and said, Didn't I tell you before? Sister Jingjing's supernatural ability comes from fear, from the state of mind that wants to avoid and escape. When facing rough guys like you, she will definitely perform well. I am a girl, and I am also her good friend. It is very difficult for her to have that kind of true fear and dread. And when the state of mind is not right, the effect of the illusion supernatural ability will be reduced, right? Lu Qing slapped his thigh and said, That makes sense. It was reasonable and convincing. Of course, Yinjika raised her chin and looked up. Her joy was evident on her face. You are indeed Coach Yan. Lu Qing was never stingy with his praise for Ku. April 14, 7:10 p.m. It was drizzling in the capital, which moistened the dry situation. Outside the city martial arts stadium, groups of spectators were still pouring in. There were both men and women among them, and they were all in high spirits. From time to time, they would whisper to each other, discussing the first real focus of this competition. In the office of the Martial Arts Club of Capital College, Xin Yu, Qin Digua and others had already gathered and set up the projection screen. After a few minutes, they saw Runli approaching with Jiang Kongchan. Everyone was relieved and secretly gave the girl a thumbs up. This time it was more reliable. In a bar, the members of the Martial Arts Club of Shanbei University gathered together to watch the live broadcast. Around them, there were many martial arts enthusiasts and casual fans drinking beer, singing and dancing, which made the atmosphere extremely exciting. In such an environment, there were even many sexy and charming girls around. However, in front of Peng Liyun and others were mineral water, and there was no one around them. Su Wanyan was very helpless about this. He had originally suggested that they find a bar with a live broadcast to relax and prepare for the quarterfinals under the pretext that it would be too crowded to watch the competition in the room. Unexpectedly, the senior and powerful coach Huang Qing agreed, but he himself came. He couldn't help but glance at the white-haired middle-aged man opposite him, only to feel that the commotion in his heart was extinguished by his serious expression. Alas, let's focus on the competition between Songqing University and Huahai. In a well-decorated hotel, Li Xiaoyuan's room was brightly lit and the TV was flashing. On the table and carpet were boxes of food such as barbecue skewers and braised food. Putting away the game console he brought, Li Xiaoyuan glanced at the bronze-skinned club president Zhen Huanqing and found that he was very quiet in the heated discussion of Xi Meng and others. Senior brother Zhen is a bit stressed. Li Xiaoyuan stroked his hair and thought. In the live broadcast room with the martial arts suits of Songqing University and Huahai as the background, the host Lu Chang looked at the information in his hand and said with a smile, "We'll talk about Hudong and Mingdao later. Sanqing, since we have time now, let's talk about Huahai and Songqing University." The first match of the night was between Hudong and Mingdao. What's there to talk about? In the past few days, there have been many predictions about the outcome of their matches. We don't need to talk about it, do we? Chen Sanqing unconsciously played with the pen in his hand. Alas, we can talk about the contestants tonight and the most likely order. Lu Chang tried to find a topic to talk about. As for Songqing University, Lu Qing and Lin Ke won't be shaken no matter what. As for the other one, Yin Zheka, who is the strongest among all the substitutes, is probably the one who will be selected. Huahai was originally a bit difficult to predict. Zhang Dongliang and Xing Jingjing are about the same in terms of fighting strength. Both of them have their own strengths and characteristics, so it makes sense who will be selected. But now Zhang Dongliang hasn't fully recovered from his injury, so he won't be able to make it to the quarterfinals. Speaking of this, he couldn't help but sigh. This kind of team with such great disparity in strength can only be seen in university martial arts competitions. In professional competitions, Lu Cheng's substitutes should be at least at the top of the 8th pin. It can't be helped. The focus of the university is not on martial arts. The number of talents we can recruit every year is limited. In the past few years, it was okay because everyone was about the same. When Peng Liyun and Ren Li joined the university, the strength of the top fighters increased year by year. But correspondingly, the main force and substitutes didn't grow as fast. Lu Chang had hosted the broadcasts of several national university martial arts competitions, so he had a lot of feelings about this. Well, let's not talk about this. Let's talk about the order of Huahai and Songqing University. Because of this great disparity in strength, Yin Zheka and Xing Jingjing will probably be put last. As for who will fight first, Chen Sanqing suddenly laughed. I think there is only one possibility. One possibility? Lu Chang played along and asked. That's right. For a martial artist with such strength at this age, how could he not have a lofty and unyielding character? How could he not have some pride in his heart? I think Lu Cheng and Chaoyang will definitely want to fight each other in their peak form. Chen Sanqing's eyes were slightly blurred, as if he was recalling the scene when he was young and frivolous. In the locker room of Songqing University Martial Arts Club, Lu Qing looked at Gizershur with a faint smile and couldn't hold back his desire to fight. He took a step forward and said loudly, "Master, I want to fight first." In the locker room of Huahai University Martial Arts Club, and Chaoyang took out a hairband and tied his half-length hair. He said in a calm voice and firm eyes, "Coach, I'll fight first." Chapter 378. In response to An Chaoyang's request, the coach of Huahai University Martial Arts Club, Gulai, who was often called the Akalan by his teammates, adjusted his glasses and said, "Okay." He was a coach who had been in the university martial arts circle for many years. Like Huang Qing from Shanbei, he was good at teaching newcomers and giving pointers to martial artists who had just entered the dance stage. He was obviously inexperienced in dealing with talented people who rarely appeared in this circle. With the coach's approval, An Chaoyang stood up slowly with his hair in a bun. He looked around the locker room and smiled at Piao Yuan, Xing Jingjing and the others. Time flies. In the blink of an eye, it's already my senior year. In less than 3 months, I have to report to Shanghai University. I have to say goodbye to you all. I still remember when I was in my first year of university. I was just a professional ninth pin fighter. I had nothing but pride. Thanks to my senior brothers and sisters who accepted me with great kindness, I was able to grow step by step and enter the dance stage before the national competition that year. Together with everyone else, I lifted the Feiqian Cup, which symbolizes the highest honor in our circle. Until today, I can still clearly remember the scene at that time. I remember how everyone tried their best to move me. I remember the sweat and tears they shed. I remember the indescribable ecstasy at the end. Everything seemed to have happened yesterday. However, my senior brothers and sisters and the other teammates of my batch had long left this place and were on their way to the next phase of their lives. Before school started, I seriously considered whether I should quit early and go to the Shanghai Club to train with the physical invulnerability experts every day instead of going every other day. This may sound pretentious, but I feel that I can't give it up. I want to finish what I started. I want to share the ultimate joy and emotions with all of you. I want to pass on the championship genes to all of you and to all of my junior brothers and sisters. I want to tell all of you something." He paused. His expression suddenly became solemn, and his voice suddenly became louder. "We are the champions." Piao Yuan, Zhang Dongliang and the others were all moved. Even the cold Xing Jingjing's eyes lit up. Their blood was boiling. They followed An Chaoyang and shouted in unison, "We are the champions. We will take back the honor we lost." In the locker room of Songqing University Martial Arts Club, Gizershur clicked his tongue when he saw Lu Qing asking for a fight. It's good to be young. Back then, forget it. A real man doesn't talk about his past achievements. Go and win the most important victory for everyone. Yes, master. Lu Qing nodded solemnly. His essence, qi spirit and will seem to materialize and rush out. Gizershur coughed twice and looked at Lin Ke, Yin Zhika and the others. I don't think I need to say more about the importance of this match, right? No need. As if affected by Lu Cheng's request, Lin Ke also opened his mouth and answered excitedly like Kai Zhongming and the others. It's good that you don't need it. I'll say one more thing. Don't look down on Huahai, and don't be scared. If you want to get the highest honor, you're destined to overturn the previous champions one by one. Gizershur said seriously, which was rare for him. Yes. Lu Cheng and the others nodded vigorously and formed a circle again. Their left hand rested on the shoulder of the person next to them, and their right hand stretched out to the center, overlapping each other. Looking at each other, they first pressed down, then immediately pulled back their hands and shouted out loud, shouting out the nervousness and excitement in their hearts. We'll win. After venting out most of the negative emotions, Gizershur turned around and opened the door of the locker room, walking out slowly. Lu Cheng was about to follow, but was pulled by Yin Zhika, so he couldn't help but stop. What's wrong? Lu Cheng lowered his voice and asked confusedly. They were at the end of the line, blocked by the figures of their teammates in front of them. Yenjika didn't say anything, but grabbed Lu Cheng's clothes with both hands, tiptoed and pressed her pink lips on his. Her sweet tongue secretly stuck out, and took the initiative to entangle with him. The girl passionately kissed him for a few seconds, and then stepped back. With a red face and bright eyes, she clenched her fists and shouted in a low voice, "Darling, come on!" Lu Cheng was still in a daze, recalling the sudden tenderness and smoothness, and didn't realize what was going on for a moment. After being stunned for 2 seconds, he understood Yenjika's intention and immediately said in surprise, "Darling, you can do it too." Looking at the girl's moist lips, he reluctantly withdrew his gaze and quickly followed Lin Hua and the others with Yenjika, almost falling behind. I feel like I've been injected with chicken blood." Lu Cheng's mouth curved, and every step he took became more and more steady, ignoring Kai Zhongming's teasing. At this time, the sound of small trumpets continued, setting off a tsunami-like heat wave in the martial arts arena. When Songqing University and Huahai University sat down, the white-haired referee wearing a black martial arts suit appeared in the middle of the arena. He waved to both sides, and the announcer cooperated and shouted, "The match between Huahai University Martial Arts Club and Songqing University Martial Arts Club starts now. Round 1 and Chaoyang Lucheng." With a boom, the cheers burst out, as if a plane flew low in the air in the arena. Swish! Lucheng pulled down his zipper, took off his thin jacket, and stood up suddenly. On the other side, and Chaoyang stood up slowly, the white towel on his shoulder fluttering and falling. The battle between the heavenly suns was about to start. After high-fiving Yenjika, Lin Kei, and the others, Lu Cheng walked step by step towards the stone stairs in continuous flashes of light. With every step he took, his willpower increased a little, and his momentum also increased a little. On the other hand, and Chaoyang restrained himself, and the closer he got to the arena, the more restrained he became. When they reached the top and saw each other, their eyes suddenly flashed with light. In Chaoyang's mind, Lu Cheng was like a towering, steady, and heavy snow mountain, inching closer and closer to him in the howling northern wind, revealing a figure that would make the herdsmen prostrate themselves in worship. In Lu Cheng's heart, and Chaoyang was like a boundless ocean, with gentle waves, containing and swallowing everything. Bam! Their eyes met, and their chi seemed to turn into electric sparks in the air. This was a battle of momentum, a battle of willpower. Thump, thump, thump. Their footsteps became heavier at the same time, locking onto each other with their minds, and slowly came to the predetermined position, forgetting about the referee and the so-called conversation time. 3 minutes passed, and neither of them had the upper hand. The referee raised his right hand, and said in a loud voice, "Begin." With the sound still in his ears, Lu Cheng, who had already outlined the ancient words in his mind, suddenly raised his hands, formed a seal, and shouted in a low voice, "All right." With a bang, his body broke through the air barrier, and in the blink of an eye, he closed the distance of 8 meters and appeared in front of Chaoyang. He took the opportunity to lean sideways, bulge his muscles, and turn into a real iron mountain, leaning towards his opponent. With such speed, with such a collision, not to mention a body of flesh and blood, even if the Iron Man was here, he would not be able to withstand it. From the beginning, Lu Cheng had used all his strength, and even within Chaoyang's state, he could not dodge in time. Facing this, and Chaoyang took a quick breath, put his feet together, and used the strength from his waist and back to press out with his thick right arm. Just as his palm came into contact with Lu Cheng's left arm, he felt the terrifying force of the high-speed collision. He immediately wriggled his muscles, contracted his fascia, and swung his body backwards, making a step back. Bam! The moment Lu Cheng's mountain lean was blocked, he used the strength from his waist and back, and the right arm that he had been preparing for a long time, secretly swung out. Using the momentum of the forward charge, he punched towards the chest of the enemy on his left. The surface of his fist was filled with white gas, and in his mind was a frozen river. Frost force. Continuous attacks. In such a close fight, and Chaoyang had no way of dodging at all. He could only rely on his instinct, twitching his ribs and fascia, quickly raising his left arm, and extending his palm to block the front of Lu Cheng's fist. Bam! The cold current surged, and the force poured in, wanting to freeze in Chaoyang's muscles and slow his joints. But at this moment, Lu Qing felt as if there was a boundless ocean in his opponent's body. After his frost force poured in, it disappeared without a trace, without even the slightest ripple. The core force of the water sect. Ocean force. Just as the frost force was being dissolved by the ocean force, and Chaoyang's palm that was pressing against Lu Cheng's left arm suddenly showed black veins. He was about to use force to seize and tear Lu Qing apart. Lu Qing had expected this. He took a deep breath calmly, and in an instant, the muscles and fascia of his left arm bulged, pushing away his opponent's 5 fingers, so that Chaoyang's force could not penetrate deep. At the same time, Lu Cheng's thigh muscles tightened, and the tip of his foot kicked towards his opponent's knee, attacking his weak point. Bam! And Chaoyang seemed to have heard the movement, and in time, he kicked his leg and blocked his opponent's surprise attack. Bam, bam, bam! Lu Cheng's upper body did not move, but his legs moved continuously, and like a storm, he kicked towards his opponent's knee and ankle joints. From the beginning until now he had been attacking nonstop. After experiencing 2 life and death battles, he clearly understood that in a battle of the same level, the one who had the upper hand would be closer to victory. The one who was in a passive position would have to put in more effort, or be more adaptable, in order to have a chance to turn the tables. First step, then step by step. Bam, bam, bam. And Chaoyang was also frantically kicking. Maybe it was because of his listening force, but he was always able to narrowly block Lu Cheng's attacks. Seeing that it was difficult to succeed, Lu Cheng's left leg that had just kicked out suddenly stepped down halfway, and with the momentum of the rebound he swung his elbow, causing his right arm to shake up, leaving in Chaoyang's left palm, and shot towards his face like lightning. This attack contained the Zhurong force, and the release of his superpower. Once the attack hit the air or was blocked, it would immediately spurt out a flame towards the enemy's face, forcing the enemy to dodge in a hurry and expose his weakness. At this moment, Chaoyang's hair stood on end, sensing danger. His hand that was trying to grab Lu Cheng's left arm changed from a grab to a push, causing his opponent's body to sway backwards. Following that, he exerted strength from his waist and abdomen, and used his other hand to move upwards, hitting Lu Cheng's right wrist in time. Bam! Lu Cheng's fist was tilted by the sway of his body and the upward stroke of his wrist. The red flames brushed past Chaoyang's head and into the air, burning a few strands of his hair. Lu Cheng's body swayed backwards, and Chaoyang took advantage of the situation to retreat. It was not easy for him to turn the situation around, so of course he would immediately rush forward, changing from defense to offense. However, just as he moved his left leg, he felt that the ground was unusually slippery, and his body couldn't help but want to fall backwards. The ground between the two of them had unknowingly formed a layer of crystal-clear ice. Every time Lu Cheng's leg landed, a gust of frost force would be released, secretly creating a trap. Ice Sect, the 17th move, Polar Ground. This was one of the uses. Lu Cheng's deliberate retreat was to set a trap for Chaoyang. Whoosh! Chaoyang's left leg slipped, and he lost his balance. Immediately, his pupils contracted, and his qi and blood flowed back. With the characteristics of Dan's stage, it was not difficult to use mercurial balance to control the body, but he was very clear that his opponent would immediately take advantage of the situation to attack. If that was the case, he would not be able to use his strength in time, as he had just regained his balance. Since that was the case, he would use force concentration to neutralize an attack, followed by a burst of power, to better resolve the current situation. When Chaoyang was concentrating his qi and spirit in his dantian, Lu Qing did not rush to attack. Instead, he slowly raised his hands, formed a seal, and solemnly exhaled. Army, you have the ability to defend against mental attacks, so I will choose to use it when you are concentrating everything in your lower abdomen. Let's see what you have to defend against it. Army. The atmosphere around them was tragic, and the coldness of the clash of weapons was obvious. Chaoyang's spirit was just about to burst out, and he encountered this. For a moment, he seemed to be in a desperate situation, waiting to be shot by the enemy. He could not help but shiver. His movements were shaky, and the burst of Dan's stage disappeared without a trace. Bam! Lu Cheng's qi and blood flowed back and forth. His right arm tightened, and his fist punched out towards his opponent. And Chaoyang was indeed strong. Under such circumstances, he was still able to hold up both his arms. Bam! With the explosion of power, he was hit so hard that he lost his stance and retreated continuously. But how could Lu Cheng let go of this opportunity? He took a big step forward and visualized the scenes of freezing sky and ground, and frozen river. He raised his left arm high and made a stick-shout pose. Phew! The audience either gasped or cried out in surprise. From the moment the referee shouted start, they were almost out of breath from Lu Cheng's continuous attacks and the close combat between the two of them. They were afraid that in the blink of an eye, the intense battle would be over. During this process, they only felt that Lu Cheng's fighting style was masculine and powerful, with the essence of violent aesthetics. They could not help but secrete adrenaline and tremble in their hearts. And now Lu Cheng was so ferocious that he had no friends. And Chaoyang seemed to be on the verge of defeat. Within inches, the boundary between life and death. The guest commentator, Chen Sansheng, could not help but sigh at the previous battle between the two of them. Yenjika's beautiful eyes sparkled as she watched. It seemed that only her boyfriend's figure was left in her eyes. And Chaoyang had just retreated when he saw Lu Cheng closing in on him. He knew that the outcome of the battle would be decided in an instant. He immediately made a visualization, pulling his fascia and wriggling his muscles. Thump! His feet sank, and suddenly he stabilized his body. The arena beneath his feet started to shake. At this moment, it was as if he had become the earth, one with the arena. However, the moment he stabilized his body, Lu Cheng's raised arm had already turned into a metal rod. With a bang, he struck down, not giving him a chance to dodge, nor did he give him the time to use force concentration or visualize his moves. Simplified physical invulnerability, severe warning. And Chaoyang seemed to have given up hope. He could only use all the strength in his shoulders to lift his right arm and move upwards. Poof! When Lu Cheng's fist landed on his opponent's arm, the cold wave that could freeze one's mind was released. In that fleeting moment, and Chaoyang's qi, blood, spirit and force were rapidly shrinking. The timing was so perfect that even after Chaoyang's body was covered in frost and his eyes became sluggish, he was still using force concentration. All kinds of feelings were released and released. The freezing force was released, and Chaoyang immediately regained his consciousness. He even expanded his body and threw out his left fist. To use this method to neutralize severe warning. It was impossible to do so without the most precise timing of Lu Cheng's attack. Either it was too late, and his mind was frozen, unable to use force concentration, or it was too early, and the cold wave had not entered his body yet. He could not neutralize it, and his mind would still be sluggish. Lake and mirror mirrored wisdom. At this moment, a name appeared in Lu Cheng's mind. This was a unique skill of the water sect, similar to his own ice mirror. It was the most difficult type of martial arts below physical invulnerability. He did not expect Chaoyang to have mastered it. No wonder he was the direct disciple of the Queen of Thought. Bam! And Chaoyang's left fist was like a dragon, rushing out of the low ground and out of the shallows. He attacked Lu Cheng with a nimble body. Lu Cheng did not have time to dodge or force concentration. He could only follow his opponent's example and block with his arms. Bam! His body swayed and he was about to step back and lose his stance. At this critical moment, Lu Cheng quickly retracted his qi and blood. He sat firmly on the throne and maintained his center of gravity. And Chaoyang swung his arms and did force concentration again. He used the continuous flow of water to perform double explosion. He shook his right hand and punched. Lu Cheng knew he could not dodge. His Dan force surged and his arms swelled. He blocked with his arms. Bam! In the muffled sound, Chaoyang took the initiative and attacked again. Bam bam bam. Triple explosion, quadruple explosion, quintuple explosion, sextuple explosion. Lu Cheng felt that his opponent's attacks were very similar to his 24 blizzard strikes. Each attack was heavier than the previous, fiercer than the previous, and had the smoothness of flowing water. Bam bam bam. 7 consecutive explosion, 8 consecutive explosion, 9 consecutive explosion, 10 consecutive explosion. Lu Cheng, who did not have enough strength, was beaten back by An Chaoyang's wave after wave of flood force. Every step he took left a hole, a crack and a footprint. But in such a situation he did not panic. Isn't it just being suppressed and beaten back? I've already experienced it that night when I was tearing down the building. And there are no walls here to hurt my back and stop me from retreating. 11 consecutive explosion, 12 consecutive explosion, 13 consecutive explosion. And Chaoyang hit 14 consecutive explosions in one breath. The hairband on his head broke, and his half-length hair fluttered in the air. Lu Cheng resisted with all his strength. Although he was retreating, he did not panic. He made 14 consecutive explosions in tit for tat. The places they passed were like they were plowed by bombs. The tide has turned, and Chaoyang is indeed a sleeping tiger. In the live broadcast room, Chen Sanxing clapped and cheered. Yan Zhika, Kai Zongming, and the others had stood up and looked at the ring nervously. The audience was so excited that their cheers were deafening. After 14 consecutive explosions, and Chaoyang slowed down his frenzied attacks. He changed his footwork and circled Lu Cheng, throwing punches and pushing palms. Every attack was mixed with ocean force. Lu Cheng did not fall behind. He used frost force and Zhu Rong force alternately to counter. But the cold wave and the hot wave were all absorbed by his opponent's force. Of course, his force was mixed with supernatural ability, so it was stronger than his opponent's. And Chaoyang's face gradually changed from pale to red. Obviously he was still affected, and the effect was stacking little by little. And Lu Cheng was also affected by the ocean force. Slowly he felt his veins bulging and his breathing was not smooth enough. It was like he was sinking into the sea inch by inch. The 15th move of the water sect, drowning. Faced with such a situation, Lu Cheng had tried a few times to use ice burning and snow cover to break the situation and take a breather. However, An Chaoyang had the upper hand and was familiar with his moves. He never gave him a chance to escape. At the climax of the battle, An Chaoyang looked around and suddenly changed his fighting style. He visualized the scenes of rising tide and dam collapsing. Bam! All the muscles in his body swelled, and he suddenly became taller. His right fist punched out fiercely straight forward. Lu Cheng took the opportunity when he was visualizing and did force concentration. He condensed the feeling of drowning and then spurted out his Dan force. He moved his waist and threw out his thick right arm. Bam! The sound was shocking and echoed around. Lu Cheng, who had used all his strength, was forced to take 2 steps back by An Chaoyang, who did not use force concentration. The simplified physical invulnerability move of the water sect, flood. It was turbulent, unstoppable, and meant to drown everything. It did not have the effect of freezing or paralyzing the enemy. It was just pure strength. The strength generated from the stimulation was more powerful than the spurting of Dan force. Of course, An Chaoyang did not dare to use such a move that stimulated the qi and blood too often. He could only use it 3 times in a match. It was just right to use it now. Bam! Lu Cheng took 2 steps back and steadied himself. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw the edge of the arena. If he took 1 more step back, he would fall down. And Chaoyang had been holding back for so long. He used the simplified physical invulnerability move Flood, because the situation was just right. He rushed to catch up. In his mind, the scene of turbid flood and rising tide appeared. Then it changed to the dam on both sides of the arena can no longer withstand and suddenly collapses. Bam! The dam collapsed and the flood surged. And Chaoyang rushed forward and threw out his right fist again. He wanted to use his terrifying strength to knock Lu Cheng out of the arena. Lu Cheng lost. In the live broadcast room, Chen Sanxing sighed. Kai Zongming and the others held their breaths. Yan Zhika bit her lower lip. Countless thoughts flashed through Lu Cheng's mind. Behind him was the edge of defeat. He grasped one of the thoughts and visualized the image of a red sun in the middle of the arena. When this terrifying and heavy fireball appeared, the heat flow in Lu Cheng's body started to condense, collapse, and condense into a ball. After a moment, the image in Lu Cheng's mind changed. The god of fire, Zhurong, with the head of a beast and the body of a human, appeared, riding on a red dragon. In an instant, the violent fireball calmed down and became controllable. The simplified physical invulnerability move of the fire sect, internal explosion. Bam. He put his feet together and threw out a punch. Bam. In the short moment when the two fists froze, and Chaoyang felt something explode in his body. It made his organs tumble, his qi and blood flow chaotic, his mind buzzing, and the taste of rust coming out of his throat. Without thinking, he immediately used force concentration to neutralize the tremors in his body. Lu Qing couldn't withstand the fury of the flood. He took 2 steps back and fell out of the arena. While sighing in pity, his eyes were as cold as ice. He turned around quickly in midair, gathered all the power of blaze in his right hand, and shook it towards the ground. The fireball took shape and exploded towards the arena. Boom. The ground beside the arena had a crater from the explosion. Smoke and shockwaves billowed upwards. With this, Lu Qing adjusted his muscles and bounced back, out of thin air, like a deity descending from the heavens. He returned to the arena like a rock spreading its wings and pounced towards his opponent. In midair, he gathered more than half of the cold wave, and threw it towards Chaoyang, who was using force concentration to neutralize the internal explosion. Immediately after, Lu Qing extended his right arm and struck towards his opponent. In his mind, freeze of the great river, and thundercloud shock appeared. With a flash of white light, and Chaoyang, who was withdrawing his spirit, was hit directly. White frost formed on the surface of his body, forming a layer of ice. However, his rapidly gushing Dan force swelled his body and broke through the ice. In the sluggishness caused by the cold, he saw Lu Qing descending from the sky, in the midst of the smoke. He was right in front of him, and his right arm was already close. Heavenly Fairy, severe warning. Bam. And Chaoyang subconsciously raised his hand to block Lu Qing's fist. However, his mind went blank, as if all his thoughts had been frozen. Lu Qing had succeeded in one move. He changed his fist into a press and rose into the air again. He flipped over in Chaoyang's head, and casually used both his hands to hit Chaoyang's temples from both sides. Bam! Lu Qing's feet landed on the ground. He felt that the cold wave, the warm current, and his spirit were all gone. He almost lost control of his Jindan. Behind him, Chaoyang was still standing there in a daze, facing outside the arena. At this moment, the referee retracted his arms, which he had tried to stop. He raised his hand and shouted, "First round, Lu Qing wins." Chapter 379. First round, Lu Qing wins. The referee's voice reverberated throughout the arena, but the audience was still in a daze. They were not cheering or clapping. The scene of Lu Qing falling off the arena was still fresh in their minds, and the loud sound of the bomb explosion was still ringing in their ears. How did he turn the tables and defeat Chaoyang in an instant? When the big screen replayed the scene in slow motion, they saw Lu Qing using the recoil of the explosion to return to the arena like a flying immortal. Only then did the audience verify their own memories and figure out what had happened. For a moment, they cried out in surprise and sighed repeatedly. What is a desperate comeback? This is a desperate comeback. What is a desperate comeback? This is a desperate comeback. Savoring the process of Lu Qing pulling himself back from defeat in a way that was beyond normal people's imagination, the audience couldn't help but shout to vent their surging emotions. Exciting battle. Intense battle. Powerful Chaoyang. Even more powerful Lu Qing. Woo woo woo. The sound of the trumpets didn't come one after another, but at the same time. First round, Lu Qing wins. At the Songqing University Martial Arts Club seating area, Yan Zhika, who was staring at the ring, waved her arms fiercely as soon as she heard the referee's announcement. She was so excited that there were faint bite marks on her pink lips. I knew Qing wouldn't raise his hands and surrender, like that. In the midst of the cheers, she heard Kai Zongming beside her say to himself in surprise, I think I've seen this episode somewhere before. Before Yan Zhika could think about the meaning of this sentence, Little Ming answered his own question. Yes. Dragon Ball. The time when Kamehameha returned to the arena. The thought flashed through Yan Zhika's mind, and she suddenly remembered something. Chung had mentioned that his family wasn't very well off in the first few years of primary school, so he couldn't afford to read new comics. He could only rely on his cousin Liu Yanwei and his classmates' old collections, so his favorite was Dragon Ball. Her answer at that time was, "Uncle Chung, I've never read this kind of old comic." Could it be that he got the inspiration from this? Yenjika's dimples appeared. She looked at the ring with sparkling eyes, only to see her boyfriend standing there, tall and straight. His martial arts suit soaked in sweat stuck to his body, outlining his figure that would make anyone jealous. Seeing this scene, the girl suddenly recalled Lu Cheng's figure in the previous battle. He was masculine, powerful, and extremely manly. This formed a sharp contrast with his usual gentleness, and humor. Mixed together, she felt her heart palpitate with excitement. How should I describe this contrast? Thinking about it, Yenjika suddenly burst into laughter, which aroused Lin Hua's curiosity. "Ku, what are you laughing at?" Yenjika rolled her eyes and pursed her lips. "I just thought of a sentence to describe the difference between Cheng's performance in daily life and in the competition." "What is it?" Lin Hua became more interested. Yenjika smiled with deep dimples. "Yes, as still as a virgin, as moving as a fleeing rabbit." Lu Cheng wins the first round. In the seating area of Huahai University Martial Arts Club, Piao Yuan, who looked like a Buddhist monk, touched his bald head subconsciously and forgot to stand up. Beside him, Xing Jingjing, Zhang Dongliang, and the others were silent, as if they couldn't accept in Chaoyang's defeat. Senior brother and had already shown a strength that shocked all of them, but Lu Cheng had still won the fight. Since Lu Cheng fell out of the ring and threw the fireball, the live broadcast room fell into a deep silence. When the referee announced the result, Chen Sanqing sighed and said, "Wonderful. Amazing." Lu Cheng turned the situation around in this way. "Isn't this a loss?" The host, Lu Chong, asked subconsciously. No, he didn't touch anything outside the ring except for the air. Chen Sanqing calmed down and explained, "As for the fireball he threw to the ground, it can't be considered a part of his body. In normal fights, there will be situations where the supernatural power will be released and fly out of the ring. Does that count as a loss?" Lu Chong smiled with a complicated expression. "I haven't seen such a situation except in the top professional matches, and the ring of the top professional matches is not like this, so I didn't get it." The ring of the top professional matches was arranged according to the environment, so that the hosts would have an advantage. For example, Xinghai Club used an old ship as their home ground for a period of time, fully utilizing the advantage of the water sect. The audience was on their own ships and watched from afar, while the VIP seats were in the helicopters. "You're not the only one who didn't get it. I almost didn't get it either." Chen Sanqing sighed. "I thought In Chaoyang was going to win, but I didn't expect Lu Cheng's supernatural power of flame to be so powerful." Of course, it was necessary to practice and have a strong control of the changes in the body before a fighter could use all his supernatural powers in an instant. Otherwise, he could only use it again and again, like how Lu Cheng used to do when he was awakened. This kind of method usually didn't appear in a fight, because the opponent was not stupid and would not dodge. Once the supernatural power was released at full force, the fighter would be in trouble. Lu Chong agreed and said, "Both of their performances exceeded my expectations. And Chaoyang is at the level of a strong sixth pin fighter, right?" "Yes, and a little stronger. He lost because he made a mistake, otherwise he would still be able to fight." Chen Sanqing took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. As for Lu Cheng, he's at the top of the sixth pin. In less than 4 months, he went from a weak sixth pin fighter to a top sixth pin fighter. Although this speed of growth was not shocking, it was definitely not as slow as what all-knowing man in ganghood said. Top sixth pin fighter? Didn't Lu Cheng win by a narrow margin? Lu Chong asked in surprise. Before Piao Yuan entered the ring, Chen Sanqing quickly said, "In my opinion, Lu Cheng is a little bit stronger than in Chaoyang. Not in terms of realm or strength, but in terms of momentum and fighting style. Don't you think Lu Cheng is more aggressive today than before? It's as if he can decide life and death in an instant. In the first round of fierce attacks, he kept the initiative and was very aggressive. If he hadn't made a mistake, and Chaoyang probably wouldn't have had a chance to turn the situation around. He would have been suppressed bit by bit until he was on the verge of losing. What do you mean? You just said and Chaoyang made a mistake, and now you say Lu Qing also made a mistake. Seeing Piao Yuan stand up and rush to the ring, Lu Chang seized the time to ask one last question. Chen Sanqing sighed with emotion again and answered quickly, "Yes, I am." In a battle of the same level, victory and defeat often depends on who can seize the initiative and who makes fewer mistakes. Even a single mistake may cause one to pay the price of failure. If this is a real battlefield, one may even lose one's life. Lu Cheng's fighting style was too aggressive at the beginning, and Chaoyang obviously couldn't adapt to it, and was at a disadvantage. But when the opportunity presented itself, Lu Cheng wanted to win so badly that he instinctively chose the simplified physical invulnerability of the Ice Sect, which can paralyze his opponent. He wanted to end the battle directly. But Chaoyang took the opportunity to turn the tables with the lake and mirror wisdom I just mentioned. At this moment, if Lu Cheng didn't rush and use the new simplified physical invulnerability he used to resist the flood, well, that explosive simplified physical invulnerability and Chaoyang's force concentration wouldn't have been completely neutralized. He wouldn't have been able to counterattack, and would have been affected. He would have been in a passive state until the end of the battle. Lu Cheng's mistake caused him to lose a great advantage and fall into a dangerous situation. However, at the crucial moment, Chaoyang also made a mistake. After taking the brunt of his opponent's new simplified physical invulnerability attack, he probably thought that Lu Cheng had already fallen off the arena and was destined to lose. Hence, he didn't move first to prevent any accidents. Instead, he stayed where he was to recover and became a live target. The key of the simplified physical invulnerability was visualization, changes in the body, and the coordination of muscles and fascia. It had nothing to do with the punches. Through the screen, Chen Sanqing couldn't tell which move Lu Cheng's simplified physical invulnerability was. He had to wait for Chaoyang's interview after the match to make a final judgment. Lu Chang nodded as he listened. He said emotionally, "A battle of this level is truly a battle of 100 changes in an instant. Victory and defeat are decided in an instant. Whoever makes more mistakes, whoever makes the biggest mistake, will be punished. All right, let's return our gaze to the arena. The second round of the competition is about to begin." When the host and commentator analyzed the situation, Xiaowei used the username "Superstitious Thoughts Are Not Allowed" and said, See, I told you, Lu Cheng will definitely win. The god's favored son will definitely win. If anyone says I'm a toxic healer or superstitious in the future, be careful not to be struck by lightning." His Weibo post quickly received N replies, all of which were depressed. "Damn it, I was so focused on your toxic healer ability that I forgot Lu Cheng can reflect curses." The headline of tomorrow's news will be, "Toxic Healer Can't Beat Lucky Star." You're happy? Even the guy who makes a living is restrained by Lu Cheng. These replies made Yan Shaoling, unparalleled Dragon King, and the others smile uncontrollably. They quickly moved to the fan forum to share their happiness with everyone. At the same time, they glanced at all-knowing man in Gang Hood's Weibo, and found that he stubbornly posted a message. Victory and defeat are decided by a single thought. When the strength is about the same, it's normal to lose and win. Humph. Yan Shaoling gave the middle finger to the screen. In the bar, Su Wannian, Fang Zhirong, and the others were silent for a while. After more than 10 seconds, Corvine Mouth sighed and said, "Lu Cheng is awesome." Yeah. Prung Liyun nodded slightly and looked at the broadcast screen thoughtfully. In the office of the Martial Arts Club of Capital College, Run Li and Peng Liyun had similar expressions, except that the 5 fingers of her right hand were slightly apart, stretching and opening as if she was about to make a move. It was a sharp contrast to the silence of Shen Yu, Chen Digua, and the others. In Li Xiaoyuan's room, Zhen Huanqing leaned back and seemed to be under a lot of pressure. In the arena, Lu Qing took deep breaths to make up for the lack of oxygen in the brain caused by excessive mental exhaustion. The Jindan in his body was rotating quietly, releasing a warm current to soothe the fatigue in his muscles and fascia. However, the recovery of his supernatural ability was very slow, like a trickle trying to fill the sea. Furthermore, in the final fireball explosion, because he had never practiced this before, he couldn't grasp the standard and could only do his best. Therefore, the recoil wave not only lifted his body, but also injured his internal organs. It wasn't serious, but it still had some effect. My mental strength is still enough for a double explosion. Lu Qing quickly assessed his condition. To be honest, he had thought that his mental strength had reached its limit. However, after winning a tough battle and defeating a strong opponent, he was temporarily excited and sobered up. As for the swordsman formula, he could only practice it internally or use it on others. It was not effective for himself. At this time, and Chaoyang had recovered. He turned around and shook hands with Lu Qing. Then he walked up the stone steps unhurriedly, maintaining the demeanor of a former champion, but his back looked a little lonely. Piao Yuan greeted him and high-fived him. He quickly stepped into the arena, not giving Lu Qing more time to recover. The second round was about to begin. Chapter 380. Looking at the tall and strong Piao Yuan, who had a fierce face, running to the ring, Lu Qing focused his mind and began to think about how to fight this round. Although he was close to his limit because of his mistake, he would not make a perfunctory effort in the following battle. This was a team competition, and the one who had the last laugh was the real winner. Lu Cheng's brother-in-law was much stronger than Piao Yuan, but Ku was much weaker than sister Jingjing. Overall, it was hard to predict who would win, so Lu Qing had to weaken his opponent as much as possible. What a pity! Everyone knows that my strength is not limitless. Otherwise, I could use this to trick Piao Yuan and see if I could win. Piao Yuan was a little nervous when he stood in the predetermined position. He knew that Lu Qing was almost at his limit after defeating senior brother-in, but he dared not underestimate Lu Qing. A top 6-pin fierce man, even if he couldn't make a dance stage outburst. A dying beast was the most dangerous kind of existence. And the phrase "the last burst of the setting sun" was not only used to describe the situation before one's death. Piao Yuan was impulsive and often had conflicts with others. He had been punished since he was in elementary school, so he was a bad guy in the eyes of his classmates and neighbors. However, he had never been sent to the police station. Didn't that mean something was wrong? Yes, my height, appearance, and ferocious temperament are all there, so the other side usually doesn't dare to fight back. However, it also proves that I have a good sense of propriety and won't lose control of myself due to anger. I'm also a meticulous person, who is rough on the outside but meticulous on the inside. To deal with Lu Qing in his current state, Piao Yuan had to be steady. He couldn't risk his life with Lu Qing. With these thoughts in mind, Piao Yuan spread his feet apart and got into a stance. The referee took a deep breath and decided to switch places with the supervisor after this round. He raised his right hand and waved it down. His voice was unusually loud. Start. With Lu Cheng's words still ringing in his ears, Piao Yuan didn't bother to see what Lu Qing was going to do. Instead, he swayed his legs and ran like a brown bear to a dozen meters away from his right side at an extremely fast speed. No matter what, it was always a good idea to dodge first. He couldn't give Lu Qing any chance to use the attainment formula to accelerate. Senior brother and had been careless at the beginning, and that was why he was in a passive position. Lu Qing was speechless and almost burst out laughing. He decided to stay still and even half closed his eyes, as if to say, "Go ahead, I'll admit defeat if you follow me one step further." It seemed that he wanted to seize the time to regulate his qi circulation in order to recover to a greater extent. Seeing this, Piao Yuan felt a headache coming on. He didn't dare to give his opponent such a chance, so he forced himself to change direction. Thump! Thump! He seemed to have grown a pair of elephant legs. He took strong and light strides, carrying his tall and heavy body, and rushed towards Lu Qing at lightning speed. Elephant form, wild elephant charge. Elephants were quite clumsy, but their charging speed was not slow at all. In fact, they were very fast. Thump, thump, thump. The arena was shaking slightly under Piao Yuan's feet. Just as he was about to reach Lu Cheng's side, he suddenly shifted his center of gravity. Like a nimble antelope, he drew a beautiful arc and flashed to the back of his opponent. Following that, He stretched his body and transformed into a giant bear, fiercely leaning forward. Bear form. Giant bear hits the tree. When Piao Yuan, who was close to professional 7th pin, used this move, he could even break an iron bar, let alone a tree. However, the moment he used his strength to hit the tree, Lu Cheng, who had been motionless all this time, suddenly lifted his foot and jumped forward a little, as if he was performing a coordination that he had practiced thousands of times. He didn't have eyes behind his head, but he had an ice mirror in his heart. Bam! Piao Yuan hit the air and exploded the airflow. He knew that he was in trouble, so he immediately retracted his qi and blood and used force concentration. Lu Cheng took advantage of the force to turn around and pounce on his opponent in the opposite direction. He tightened his right arm and shook it out. In his mind, he visualized a frozen river, condensed kinetic energy, and vibrating thunderclouds. Simplified physical invulnerability. Severe warning. The reason why Lu Cheng chose this move instead of internal explosion was that he was still looking for victory, not just to weaken his opponent. When his power of blaze and power of frost were both exhausted, the power of his simplified physical invulnerability, severe warning, and internal explosion would be greatly reduced. Therefore, the latter could only cause internal vibration and turbulence, which would hurt Piao Yuan to a certain extent, but would not cause him to lose most of his combat strength. As for the former, although the freezing effect on the spirit and thinking would be weakened, the stiffness and sluggishness would still appear. Even if it was only for a short time, it was enough for him to seize the opportunity in close combat. Bam! Lu Cheng's right fist chopped down, and the crisp sound, like the evening drum and morning bell, echoed around the arena. At this moment, Piao Yuan's condensed qi, blood, spirit, and strength burst out and expanded his body. However, he didn't punch back or kick back as he would normally do. Instead, he stepped back cautiously, cracked the black bricks under his feet, and retreated quickly. No matter what, it was better to stay away from Lu Cheng. Bam! Lu Cheng was both annoyed and amused that Piao Yuan missed his target. It was said that Piao Yuan had a lot of bad records and was very good at bullying others. Why was he so timid and cautious? Lu Cheng didn't feel frustrated. He immediately gathered his force and released it from the soles of his feet. Crack! The ground cracked, and he jumped up. In a flash, he was in front of Piao Yuan. He stretched out his hands and shook his elbows and wrists, covering 7 parts of his opponent's body. The 13th move of the ice sect, Snow Cover. This time, without the help of his supernatural ability, he could only rely on the fluctuation of frost force to reduce the surrounding temperature and create a thin white fog. Piao Yuan didn't have time to dodge in the snow and fog. According to what he had thought of in the video clips, he tightened his thighs, straightened his knees, and kicked out first to make Lu Cheng fall into his trap. At the same time, he shook his elbows and raised his hands to protect his vital parts, making a gesture of letting Lu Cheng hit him. Lu Cheng saw all of this clearly in his ice mirror. He calmly moved his left foot back, making Piao Yuan's kick hit nothing but air. As he moved his left foot back, his body leaned forward and forced the trajectory of his hands to change. He dodged Piao Yuan's block and hit Piao Yuan's shoulders. The snow cover move was both fake and real, and so was the movement of his hands. Piao Yuan was shocked. Seeing that his shoulders were about to be hit, he stamped his feet on the ground to make his body squat down quickly. Although Lu Cheng's double hammers touched Piao Yuan, he couldn't exert any force. Bam! Bam! Lu Cheng exerted force on his joints, stretched his fascia, and pressed his 10 fingers on Piao Yuan's shoulders. He took advantage of the force and turned over in the air. Piao Yuan was so scared that he thought of An Chaoyang's failed move. He hurriedly withdrew his qi and blood, exploded his Dan force, and spurted it forward to avoid Lu Cheng's attack. At this moment, Lu Cheng suddenly grabbed Piao Yuan's shoulders with all his strength. While in midair, Lu Cheng exerted strength in his waist and abdomen. His muscles bulged, and he threw Piao Yuan into the air with the momentum of his body's forward somersault. Beautiful! Chen Sanxing in the live broadcast room applauded. This fight could be written into textbooks or secret manuals. In the seats of Songqing University Martial Arts Club, Yanjeka opened her mouth slightly. She was both stunned and happy. After throwing Piao Yuan into the air, Lu Qing landed on the ground and calmly visualized a hot and heavy big red sundae. This time he knew that he was close to his limit, so he didn't use the severe warning. Instead, he used the internal explosion to kill Piao Yuan. Let's see how you dodge this time. Although Piao Yuan adjusted his posture in the air, he couldn't stop himself from falling because he didn't have the supernatural ability to fly. His body contracted and expanded, and together with the explosion of his dance stage, he turned into a meteorite and hit Lu Qing. The scorching waves condensed into a ball. The big red sun turned into Zhurong, who had the body of a beast and the head of a human. Lu Qing didn't dodge. He lowered his back and clenched his fist to hit Zhurong. Bam! Soaring cannon. Bam! Piao Yuan's fist collided with Lu Qing's internal explosion punch. Boom! The qi and strength in Piao Yuan's body exploded, shaking all his internal organs and making his eyes bloodshot. Thump! Thump! Lu Qing, who was close to his limit, was pressured by the explosion of his dance stage. He immediately stepped back in case his legs were fractured. Thump! Piao Yuan, who was hit by the internal explosion, couldn't stabilize himself and almost fell. However, he quickly used force concentration to neutralize most of the effect and maintain his center of gravity. Then, he bounced up and shot a dozen or so meters away. Yes, he was a dozen or so meters away from Lu Qing. This guy looks fierce, but why is he such a coward? How can he be so slippery? Lu Qing, who had planned to bully Piao Yuan, couldn't help but shake his head. Seeing that he couldn't even maintain the ice mirror, he simply raised his right hand to indicate that he gave up. Seeing his casual attitude, the referee almost didn't realize it. After 2 seconds, he raised his arm and announced, "Round 2, Piao Yuan wins." At this moment, Piao Yuan was inexplicably moved. He didn't know if he would lose if Lu Qing continued to hold on. In the seats of the Songqing University Martial Arts Club, Lin Ke jumped up. He had already taken off his coat and put away the towel. "I've been waiting for this for a long time." Chapter 381. Watching Lu Qing walk down the arena, Chen Sanqing couldn't help but sigh. What a pity. Sanqing, what's a pity? Lu Qing asked cooperatively. Chen Sanqing sighed. Lu Qing was so close to defeating Piao Yuan. I can't believe he was able to do that when he was close to his limit. Seeing Lu Qing at a loss, Chen Sanqing explained. If Lu Qing had used the move that could freeze Piao Yuan's mind and spirit instead of his newly learned simplified physical invulnerability moves, Piao Yuan would have been like a trembling lamb in the air, waiting to be slaughtered. That's right. Why didn't Lu Qing use that move? Did he make a mistake again? Lu Qing tapped the table lightly. No, it's because he was at his limit and couldn't continue. That's what I pity. If he could have used force concentration one more time, Piao Yuan would have lost. But it also proved that Chaoyang was not easy to deal with. He had to fight until his last breath to defeat Chaoyang. Chen Sanqing answered Lu Qing's question. Look, Lu Qing was forced to step back by Piao Yuan's dance stage explosion. If he had used the simplified physical invulnerability move of the ice sect, and couldn't use force concentration, he wouldn't have been able to seize the opportunity when Piao Yuan was frozen. It would have been better for him to use his new simplified physical invulnerability move to injure Piao Yuan, so that Lin Ke could finish him. I see. Lu Qing suddenly understood. What's more, if he hadn't reached his limit, Lu Qing wouldn't have been forced to step back by a top 8th pin dance stage explosion. That's right. In that state, he has to release the force. Otherwise, his bones and joints will be damaged. Chen Sanqing looked at the screen and saw Lin Ke walking quickly to Lu Qing. Seizing the last moment, Lu Qing asked in confusion. When Lu Qing grabbed Piao Yuan's shoulder and threw him into the air, why didn't he hold on for a while longer? Why didn't he just throw him to the ground and make him dizzy? Wouldn't he have won if he had done that? Why did he give Piao Yuan a chance to fight head-on when he had already grabbed Piao Yuan? As a host who had participated in many live broadcasts of martial arts competitions, even if he didn't know much about martial arts in the past, he could be considered half an expert now. If he could, do you think he wouldn't want to? Lu Qing took advantage of the situation to grab Piao Yuan. Since he couldn't control Piao Yuan's joints and couldn't infuse much force into Piao Yuan's body, Piao Yuan would have been able to counterattack. A force concentration would have been enough to solve Lu Cheng's predicament, and Lu Cheng could have seized the opportunity to attack Piao Yuan. Therefore, Lu Cheng threw Piao Yuan into the air as fast as he could. Chen Sanqing was like a drunkard who had just gotten a bottle of aged wine. He was savoring the lightning-fast fight and the various considerations behind it. Lu Cheng nodded slightly. Phew, the response of an expert is really full of knowledge. Alright, let's turn our eyes back to the arena and enjoy the next match. In Lu Cheng's fan forum, Eternal Nightfall Yan Xiaoling posted, QQ, that commentator uncle is really a good person. I can even understand the specific changes of the battle. That's why I'm sad. If only my idol had more stamina, sob sob sob. Brahmin replied with a crying emoji. Flying Steed in Space, who had just joined the forum, said with a funny face, it's both you and us who are not good enough. If we could all work together and give Lu Cheng a ***, a little stamina each, things would be much easier. Okamoto's fan immediately changed the topic to something dirty. That's not right. What if there is a 3-second guy in the jar? Every second is so important. Since the match was not over yet, the audience didn't celebrate or rejoice. They quickly turned their attention back to the live broadcast. Only Yan Xiaoling tagged Unparalleled Dragon King nervously. Do you think Songqing University can win this match? Or Lu Cheng has already reached this level? Unparalleled Dragon King replied with a funny face emoji. It's hard to say. Huahai is not a pushover. Piao Yuan is said to be close to 7th pin and can make 5 consecutive bursts. However, he failed in the ranking event because he didn't practice force concentration and didn't have the top inheritance. In short, although he used 3 force concentrations, they were not consecutive bursts, so he didn't consume too much energy. However, he suffered a simplified physical invulnerability attack from Lu Cheng, so he must have suffered some internal injuries. He probably only has 70% of his peak state left, or maybe even less. It's not difficult for Lin Ke to beat him. The difficult part is controlling the consumption of energy. Xing Jingjing has a strong illusion supernatural ability. When Xing Jingjing participated in the youth tournament of Xing province at the end of July last year, she was praised as having the strength of an 8th pin fighter. Now 8 or 9 months have passed. Although she hasn't entered the Dan stage yet, I'm sure she has made some progress, especially in the area of illusion supernatural ability. Without a strong opponent, it's hard for outsiders to judge her specific level. Therefore, even if Lin Ke can't defeat 2 opponents at once, he has to exhaust Xing Jingjing to the same level as Lu Cheng just did. Otherwise, illusions are still very powerful to defeat opponents of the same level. Yinjika, a professional 9th pin fighter, won't be able to deal with it effectively unless she has learned a unique skill like Ice Mirror. However, Lu Cheng, the so-called God's favored one, also entered the Dan stage several months ago. Brahmin had been silently watching Unparalleled Dragon King's analysis. At this time, she pulled her braid and sent an emoji of Pegasus Meteor Punch. I thought there was no problem, but now you're making me nervous again. Yeah, I'm trembling in fear. Yan Xiaoling sent an emoji of You Are Dead. Pitter-patter. As Lu Cheng walked down the ring, his sweat kept dripping and falling on the ground. The Jindan could replenish his strength and soothe his fatigue, but it couldn't prevent him from generating heat when he was exerting force. This was one of the foundations of punching force. Therefore, Lu Cheng believed that the Jindan's replenishment was not unlimited. At least it couldn't create water out of thin air. Once there was a serious lack of water, even the strongest martial artist would be dispirited. As soon as he stepped onto the stone steps and took a few steps forward, he saw Lin Ke walking towards him at a leisurely pace. Lu Cheng smiled and stretched out his right hand. He wanted to say, I'll leave the rest to you. However, considering that his brother-in-law was used to piling pressure in his heart and was not good at relieving pressure, he changed his words and said in a low voice, Good luck. Clap. Lin Ke high-fived him and nodded slightly. There was an invisible flame burning in his deep and indifferent eyes. The two brushed past each other. Lu Cheng saw Yinjika, who who was wearing a white dress and holding a towel, happily greeting him. Instinctively, he quickened his pace and walked back. Wipe off your sweat. Yenjuka handed the towel to her boyfriend. She smelled the familiar scent of sweat and felt a little dizzy and comfortable. She shook her head slightly and smiled with bright eyes. I knew you could beat in Chaoyang, but I didn't expect you could push Piao Yuan to the brink of defeat after beating him. She felt a little sorry that her boyfriend had reached his limit and couldn't seize the opportunity to win one by one. However, this was not the time to mention it. Coach Yin was not stingy with her compliments. If that bald guy wasn't so cowardly and slippery, I could have beaten him. Lu Qing wiped the sweat on his head and face with the towel, and walked back to the seats with the girls side by side. He was in a good mood. At this time, Kai Zongming came up to them and raised his eyebrows. Chung, did you learn the skill of Dragon Ball when you hit the ground with the fireball? Lu Qing squinted at him and showed a smile. It's a secret. A secret. Kai Zongming was stunned. For a moment he thought he was facing Lin Quebec. Damn it. Chung was influenced by Lin Kei's dry humor. He was influenced by Lin Kei's cold humor. While he was still a little dumbfounded, he saw Lu Chung and Yenjuka sitting side by side. Yenjuka lowered her voice and asked, Chung, did you really get the inspiration from Dragon Ball? Lu Chung chuckled and answered without hiding anything, yes. I take back my words. I've never seen such a person who values girls over friends. I, Kai Zongming, am not convinced. Kai Zongming covered his face and sighed. Lu Qing finished wiping his sweat and put down the towel. Suddenly, he saw Yenjuka take out a bottle of liquid the size of calcium milk from the bag at her feet. The bottle was transparent and rippled. This is for you. Yenjuka pretended to hand the bottle to her boyfriend casually. Lu Qing glanced at it and didn't see a label. He was confused. What is it? Sedative and brain-invigorating liquid. I thought you used to use a lot of energy but not your physical strength, right? Well, it's an ancestral product of the Ji family. My mom's company has improved it recently. It's suitable for you. Yenjuka whispered in Lu Cheng's ear. You're ready? Lu Cheng blurted out in surprise. Of course. I'm not a rough guy. I'm always reliable. Yenjuka raised her chin and glanced at Lu Cheng. Lu Cheng beamed with joy. He felt more satisfied than when he defeated An Chaoyang. He was about to praise Coach Yin in a low voice when he heard his master talking on the phone. Haha, my silly disciple is not stupid when it comes to fighting. Geezer sure was holding the phone and laughing. You are still too disciplined to teach the 9 words formula to An Chaoyang. Don't be modest. If you really knew the 9 words formula, my silly disciple would have to fight with all his might to win. Is master showing off in front of the Queen of Thought? Show off. Lu Cheng's mouth twitched. He pretended not to hear and leaned toward his little fairy, praising her reliability and effort. Pa. He slit his thumb and opened the bottle cap, letting the fragrance of the sedative and brain-invigorating liquid spread out. In the arena, Piao Yuan shivered when he saw Lin Kei's emotionless and cold face. He recalled the video of Lin Kei's opponent that he had watched before. He was also good at attacking at the beginning of the game. Furthermore, he had already mastered the attainment formula. So I'd better dodge first. The referee looked around, raised his right hand and waved it down. Begin. The third round between Huahai and Songqing began. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.